Chapter 201. Just when Slytherin and Ravenclaw were reminiscing about old times, Erwin has returned to his dormitory. Start studying the chief ring in your hand. Since Slytherin said that this chief ring is the second Slytherin inheritance, he must have special abilities. Although Erwin has just discovered an ability that can destroy the snake shadow, he can figure it out even if he thinks about it with his cerebellum. The inheritance of Slytherin is not that simple. Erwin thought for a moment. Slytherin's chief challenge is based on strength. Slytherin himself also values strength. This means that this ring should also be related to strength bonus. What exactly is it? A curse? Erwin thought it was possible. With a snap of his fingers, Erwin arrived at the door of the Room of Requirement. After obtaining the ownership of 2 Hogwarts, Erwin felt more comfortable using apparition at Hogwarts. To be precise, this is not apparition. It should be teleportation. As long as Erwin has control, he can go wherever his mind wants to go. Including those hidden rooms, there are no secrets in Erwin's eyes. Erwin can go there at any time. In the Room of Requirement, Erwin still asked for a room to practice magic spells. Then, he began to cast a disarming spell on the dummy. Subsequently, the magic wand in the dummy's hand was directly knocked away. Erwin felt it. Nothing seems to have changed. Dummy recovery. Erwin thought for a moment. Avada Kedavra. The next moment, a purple light flew out. The dummy was blown away directly. Erwin's eyes lit up. He seems to have discovered the function of this ring. Erwin opened the system panel and checked the proficiency level. Sure enough, Erwin's proficiency increased a bit more than Erwin's usual practice, probably about 1.5 times. Moreover, the power released is even greater. So, the purpose of this ring is to strengthen the power of magic spells and increase proficiency? This is a pretty good baby. It is also a treasure that Erwin needs very much now. However, it seems to only be useful for black magic. But Erwin was also satisfied. That would be great, but what kind of bicycle do you need? With this ring, Erwin can practice the Silent Death spell faster. Awesome. Erwin gave Slytherin a favorable review in his heart. Then start practicing magic spells with concentration. During the battle with Glodia, Erwin also discovered his own shortcomings. Although he has mastered a lot of magic spells, his coordination between magic spells is still poor. In this regard, Glodia is better than him. In fact, it is not only these black magic that are powerful. Those ordinary white magics are equally powerful. Here, we first eliminate Harry, who only knows the disarming spell. That thing is a plot kill, and you can't learn this. Let's just say that the mistress of the Weasley family used life magic to kill Bella. This doesn't mean she is any better than Bella. Advertisement, it's because her control over the curse is already extremely strong. When to use which spells, and which spells can cooperate with each other to cause greater damage. She mastered this very well, and this is what Erwin lacks. Therefore, for Erwin, the way to become stronger is already there. At this stage, Erwin only has 3 ways to become stronger. The first point is to learn more advanced and powerful magic, but compared with the magic spell Erwin controls now, even the most powerful magic spell will only have limited improvement for him. The second is to enhance your magic power. Erwin is now at the 4th level of magic, and already has the magic power of elite Aurors and ordinary professors. The next level up is Snape's level. Erwin has no way to increase his magic power for the time being. If he accumulates magic power as he grows older, Erwin will probably have to save up to 2 years to reach that level. So Erwin doesn't consider this path for the time being. Instead of playing it safe, it's better to cheat and draw a lottery. Erwin is now waiting for Christmas to gain weight. He was already starving for reputation points. Then there is only one last way left. That is the proficiency of magic spells, as well as the ability to match actual magic spells. It's just like playing a game. The spell alone may not be that strong. But if the cards are properly matched, the effect will be greater than 1+1. But this requires a lot of practical training, and Erwin has to find a good training partner. A figure appeared in Erwin's mind, our dear Professor Snape. But then, Erwin shook his head. No, this is a bad choice. Although it is training, what if he hurts his godfather? Erwin didn't want to see such a scene. Then there is only one best candidate left. Dear teacher, you should be waking up soon. But before that, Erwin felt that he had to find a way to change his teacher. It wouldn't be good if Professor Quirrell got hurt. It seems that we can start making arrangements to find a new home for our teacher. Shaking his head, Erwin did not continue thinking. The more I think about things, the more things I think about. So I might as well concentrate on practicing magic spells. Just when Erwin was practicing, Renton Street. Wenda walked on the street, looking at the surrounding shops from time to time. The development of muggles is really getting faster and faster. If it continues to develop at this rate, one day there will be no place for wizards. Just then, in the dark, an unkempt homeless man suddenly rushed out. In his hand is a weapon that equalizes all living beings. Stop and hand over all your money. Winda's face turned livid instantly. Look at the equalizer of all beings in the homeless man's hand. His brows furrowed. She actually felt threatened by that dark-looking thing. This surprised Winda. Muggle things can actually threaten wizards? At her level, she can sense things that are threatening. And the homeless man saw Winda's face clearly through the darkness of night. Although Winda is older, the traces of time left on her face are very light. In terms of beauty, even Grindelwald and Dumbledore combined can't compare to Winda. Plus the temperament of Winda. It's simply addictive. The homeless man's eyes instantly straightened. A smile like Brother Pig appeared on his face. Hee, you are so lucky. I didn't expect to meet such a beautiful woman. I am so blessed today. Now, follow me into the alleyway over there, and don't think about resisting. Otherwise, I will blow your head off. Hurry. A little. As soon as those dogs in Cavendi find out, the duck they got will fly away. Chapter 202. Winda himself was about to pull out his wand and kill the homeless man. But suddenly I heard the words Cavendi. Think of the news you read in the newspaper. Winda paused for a moment. The homeless man couldn't wait any longer, so he planned to pull Winda by force. Winda's eyes flashed coldly, and he was about to take action. At this moment, a hand stepped forward. Just grabbed the homeless man's wrist. The homeless man was shocked. He looked up to see who was coming. The equality of all beings' weapon in his hand fell directly. Rivers. Cavendi's hyenas. A sinister smile appeared on Rivers' face. You are so brave, the young master said. Robbery is not allowed on the streets of Renton, let alone women and children. You actually dare to ignore the young master's words. You are looking for death. The homeless man was stunned for a moment and knelt on the ground. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Please, give me a chance. I'm so hungry, it's my first time. It's really my first time. The homeless man kept kowtowing. Rivers said coldly, the young master opened a factory to work for you people. As long as you are willing, you can earn wages by your own labor. You are making excuses for your laziness. Tell me now, where did you buy your equalizer for all living beings? The homeless man stammered, yes, it's the red blood bar on the corner. Please, don't kill me. I know I was wrong and I won't do it again. Rivers waved, and two men in black suits walked over behind him. Rivers said, take him away and let everyone in London know that although the young master is not here during this period, the rules of the Cavendi family cannot be violated by anyone. We have been silent for this period of time. These scum I no longer know who is in charge of Renton. Within 2 hours, I will let all of Renton know the dominance of the Cavendi family over Renton, that bar owner. Destroy him and leave no one behind. The two people nodded. Yes. Then he ignored the homeless man's wails and pulled the homeless man away. Rivers turned to look at Winda. He was also shocked by Winda's beauty. Then he said, leave quickly. Don't walk alone in such a remote place. Although our Cavendi family has set rules in Renton, but in such a remote place, there are still places that we can't see. There will be dangers. Winda looked at Rivers. Are you from the Cavendi family? Rivers nodded. Yeah. Winda asked, Elvin Cavendi, is he a member of your family? Rivers frowned. Who are you and why do you know our young master's name? What is your purpose? While speaking, Rivers had already taken out the equality of all beings and pointed it at Winda. Winda looked at the dark barrel of the gun. He frowned. Suppress the murderous intention in your heart. Without saying anything, he just flashed his figure, disappeared directly in place. Rivers calmly put away his pistol. His brows were furrowed. Are you from the magic world? Sure enough. After the young master went to the magic world, there were more troubles. People from the Saints, why would they look for the young master? It's so annoying. The young master obviously has a seal, so why does the notice from Hogwarts still come? I have dealt with the notice, and the young master still entered Hogwarts. The most important thing is that Dumbledore came in person. I can't kill them directly. I can't stop these people anymore. Where are you? Why haven't you appeared? The young master is facing a crisis now, but you disappeared. Damn it. Rivers holstered his pistol. Then, he snapped his fingers directly. The next moment, Rivers was swallowed by the vortex. Appeared again, already in a basement. After Rivers left, Winda's figure appeared from the street corner. Watch where Rivers left off. After thinking for a moment, it's interesting. I didn't realize that he has magic power. What is this? Is it some special method? The Cavendi family is interesting, very interesting. It seems that this trip should give me a lot what fun. Let's go for a walk in Diagon Alley first. I haven't been there for a long time. Advertisement. The street fell silent again. In the basement, Rivers turned on the light beside him. Under the dim light, the entire basement scene was clearly visible. The basement seemed empty. In the center of the basement, there is a table. Rivers sat at the table. Pick up the quill on the side and start writing on the paper. Saint Vinda Rochiel came to England. Maybe for the young master. Please pay attention. Then, the words on the paper suddenly disappeared. After a while, a line of text appeared on the paper. I know, the young master is now very famous in the magic world. Pay attention to the movements of other major families. The Alva family seems to have appeared in the beautiful country, and they are launching efforts to search for it. If possible, capture him alive, and let the young master absorb his blood. If things don't work, don't force yourself and don't expose your existence. Rivers puts down his quill. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Alva, I asked you to run away 10 years ago. Now, you will never have such an opportunity again. In Diagon Alley, inside Cavendi's store, old Tom put his quill down. Stand by the window. Looking at the streets of Diagon Alley, there is a figure strolling there. It was Winda. Winda seemed to notice the gaze and followed it. Meet old Tom's eyes. Winda frowned. So full of magic power. Who is he? Old Tom looked back. Close the curtains. The curtains blocked Winda's vision. Winda continued to walk forward. I took a look at the name of the store. Cavendi Magic Materials Shop. Is it Cavendi again? The same method of concealing magic power. If it is not exposed deliberately, even adults here will not be able to see through him. What is the situation in this family? Winda's interest in the Cavendi family is simply too great now. The woman's sixth sense told her that the Cavendi family had a big secret. Winda can't wait to reveal these secrets now. Must be fun. As for whether there will be danger, Winda said that she was never afraid of this. There are really too few people in the magic world who can put her in danger. Although old Tom is strong, he can't kill her. On the other side of Hogwarts, Erwin, who was obsessed with improving his proficiency, didn't know it. The two most central characters in the family have always been playing him. He was just feeling complacent because he had reached the 4th level of the death curse. The time spent practicing magic spells is joyful, and the magic is gone as soon as it is gone. It wasn't until late at night that Erwin dragged his exhausted body back to his dormitory. I fell asleep directly and slept extremely soundly. Chapter 203. Sunday, the weather is cloudy. Today is a good day for Erwin, because today, strictly speaking, is the first day for him to exercise his power as chief. Of course, before today, Erwin had been exercising his chief rights, but after all, the name is not justified. In the early morning, no sunlight entered the bedroom. Erwin woke up from hunger. He was too tired last night and didn't bother to ask the elf to cook him a meal. After opening his eyes, Erwin sat on the bed and woke up for a while. Then the compulsory projects every Sunday begin. Take inventory of your inventory. The first is Erwin's own magic power, which is full of it. Then came the backup power, which was good and full. Finally, there are those equalizers in Erwin's ring. Very good. The bullets are all full and ready to fire at any time. In summary, it's another day full of security. However, as a person from Dashiat heart, Erwin always felt that he was not prepared enough. I don't know when I can get online with my mother and come over to play with some advanced things. The quality is good, no daily maintenance is required, and the combat effectiveness is extremely strong. This is completely the most perfect thing in Erwin's heart. Erwin thought it would be better to take a trip to Dashiat while waiting for the holidays. When the time comes, go for a walk and see if there is a chance that the big baby will come back on time. Erwin will be more confident by then. There is still a long way to go. And just when Erwin had this idea, Dashiat is a place with high mountains and lofty mountains. The mountains are shrouded in clouds and mist all year round. It is one of Dashiat's current military areas. No outsiders are allowed to enter. Therefore, ordinary people in Dashiat don't know that there is a school here. If you follow Dashiat's name, it should be called Zongmen. It is very famous internationally, similar to Hogwarts, and is a place used to incubate new powers in the world of extraordinary powers in Dashiat. On the square, there are already many students wearing monk robes who are starting the day's morning classes. I saw that each of them had a yellow talisman in their hand, and they drew it twice with the cinnabar pin in their hands, and then they shouted in unison, "Go!" The next moment, the yellow talisman flew into the air and burned in the air. One of the students said, "Speaking of which, even if we practice this talisman every day, we won't be able to use it." Another student said, "Then you have to blame the teachers in the school. In the early years, they caught all the people in China who could drill through walls and fly. As a result, we didn't even have a rival. Now there is no place to practice, so I can only play with myself. Oh, I think our life is too comfortable. There is no chance of actual combat. How can we make progress? I heard that there are many flying gadgets abroad. In Hogwarts in England, those gadgets can even interact with students. Live together. Advertisement, really? Isn't that just paradise? You can practice with those things every day." While the two were chatting, the square suddenly became quiet. Everyone turned their attention to the outside of the square. There was a girl there, with 2 black spots on her face, and she was mumbling something. "Is that Senior Sister Sun?" "It seems so. Only Senior Sister Sun can wear a white Taoist robe. Are you being beaten again?" "I heard that last night, Senior Sister Sun sneaked into the Second Elder's alchemy room secretly, and then stole the Second Elder's elixirs as snacks. She was taken down by the Second Elder on the spot, and she was beaten so hard that the screams lasted for half the night." After hearing this, the student shuddered. It has to be Senior Sister Sunday. Who doesn't know that there are 2 people on the mountain that you can't mess with, the 4th Elder in charge of the Law Enforcement Hall, and the 2nd Elder in charge of the Pill Hall. That's Senior Sister Sunday. If it were anyone else, the 2nd Elder would have to live. It's ruined. Who says otherwise? But Senior Sister Sun is really talented in formations. It is said that she was discovered by the 2nd Elder's formation after she secretly ate 2 gourd pills yesterday. If Senior Sister Sun's formation talent was not strong, how could she be accepted as a disciple by the principal personally? It's a pity that many of our things have been lost now. Otherwise, Senior Sister Sun can master more formations, in case there is really a big war. Together with Senior Sister Sun's formation, we will be invincible. The whispers of other students reached the girl's ears. The girl secretly cursed, "Old man, you are so stingy. I just want to take some of your pills. As for using such a cruel hand, my face is swollen. Smelly old man, just wait. When the principal comes back, I have to file a complaint. I'm wearing small shoes, but it's a shame to think about it. I used the trump card needle plate given by the teacher, but I actually stole such a crappy thing. I don't know what the use of this thing is." As she spoke, the girl took out a bronze mirror from her arms. The bronze mirror is antique and can be regarded as a national treasure if we talk about its antique value alone. The girl looked at the bronze mirror in her hand. At this moment, rays of light were flowing on the bronze mirror. The girl's eyes lit up. "I knew that this thing was hidden so well by that old man, and it was destined to be a treasure. Let me see what it is." As she spoke, the girl pointed her finger on the bronze mirror. Then, a substance similar to magic in the Western magic world, an energy called mana in the East, surged out of the girl's fingers, gathered on the bronze mirror. The next moment, on top of the bronze mirror, a scene slowly began to unfold. As the camera zoomed in, Erwin's face appeared on the bronze mirror. The girl's eyes lit up. "Wow, this little brother is so handsome. Which country are you from? His white hair is so beautiful." The girl looked at Erwin carefully. "Hey, this little brother has such profound magic power. Since the loss of magic power cultivation method in Daxia, everyone needs to increase their magic power with age, just like the West. I heard that there are some potions in the West, but they have also been lost. How come there is such a little brother now, who is about the same age as me and has such deep magical power? Could it be that those potions for increasing magical power in the West have been developed again?" Thinking of this, the girl's eyes instantly lit up. What she didn't know was that when she was spying on Erwin, in the clouds, several old men were sitting upright in the clouds, looking at the girl below. The old man sitting in the center slowly said, "The seeds have been planted. We can start the next step." Several other old men looked at each other, and then an old man said, "Brother, head, are you a little too hasty? We have watched the child Dowdu grow up. Is it really necessary to involve her?" The old man at the center said, "Second brother, this is the general trend, and no one can change it. That child needs to gather all his strength to have a chance of survival. This is what our ancestors have calculated." Chapter 204. Dowdu has extraordinary qualifications and is the most promising person to learn those formations. As long as Dowdu can learn them, he will play an important role in the subsequent war. Therefore, Dowdu must make this move. The calamity is approaching, and no one can survive it alone. This is the general trend, and this is the way of heaven. An old man rolled his eyes. Senior brother, I told you to read less novels and other things in the mortal world, and you have become a god. I'll give you a mysterious one. If you have time, think about it first. My Shuangguang mirror over there, how should you compensate me? I lent it to my second son to watch TV series. If you let Dowda leave now, I probably won't come back. You don't plan to return it to me, so let's talk about the price first. The old man sitting in the middle had a flash of embarrassment on his face. He coughed twice. We'll talk about this later. I suddenly feel that the world is in chaos. I need to do some divination and stay in seclusion for a while. Don't contact me if you have nothing to do during this time. After saying that, the old man flashed and disappeared directly. The face of the old man who spoke turned dark. He ran away again. Divination. Except for Master Lu Yunzi's uncle, I have never heard of anyone who knows how to do this. Another old man said, You just get used to it. Hasn't it always been like this, senior brother, master? If Uncle Lu Yunzi hadn't left a complete criticism and backup plan, after that battle, we are already dead. Over the years, the head brother has always wanted to learn divination. Isn't it just to get a chance to survive? Several other old men were silent for a moment. After a long time, they all sighed together. Oh, okay, let's break up. Let's proceed according to the original plan. The chess pieces have fallen. No one knows where we will end up. We can only do our best and obey fate. Anyway, no matter what the outcome is, this is the last time. The great thing is that we all die together. I have lived enough for more than 100 years. It is enough for me to be able to meet the enemy with whom my ancestors all fought before dying. Several other old men nodded. Afterwards, they bowed to each other, and their bodies turned into streams of light and disappeared into the clouds. Under the clouds, Sun Daodu looked at Erwin in the bronze mirror. She no longer had time to think about other things. She was attracted by Erwin's face. As a nation that cares most about appearance, Daxia has always been obsessed with beauty. The tolerant Daxia respects beauty regardless of national boundaries. Just when Sun Daodu was admiring the beauty of the flourishing age, the scene in the bronze mirror stopped abruptly. Sun Daodu suddenly became anxious. No, where are the people? What about the graphics? What a crappy thing. Cut corners. Why are there usage restrictions? Sun Daodu didn't know what was going on, so he could only study it slowly by himself. In Hogwarts, Erwin didn't know that he had been peeped at just now, but he could feel something was wrong, but he couldn't understand what was going on. The main reason is that Erwin has never thought that there is such a method in this world. Therefore, I will not think about it in this aspect. After arranging his supplies, Erwin called out to Ravenclaw. Got no response. Erwin sighed. Wasn't my portable grandma really cheated away? That's really nonsense. But what can be done? Erwin couldn't resist. Can't beat it at all. Erwin brushed his teeth while studying the Slytherin permissions he had just obtained. With Ravenclaw and Slytherin's authority in hand, Erwin already controls half of Hogwarts. As long as there are all facilities within Ravenclaw and Slytherin, including hidden rooms, magic mechanisms, and the like, it was all in Erwin's mind. Erwin can control these magical mechanisms with just a thought. Advertisement, however, those stone pillars in the original work are not within the scope of Erwin's use. That thing belongs in Gryffindor. And Erwin was surprised to find that this authority seemed to have other wonderful uses. And there are many functions, so I won't go into details here. Anyway, Erwin was very satisfied. In addition, Erwin also discovered something interesting. He could appoint and remove the headmaster of Hogwarts, and also knew what the headmaster of Hogwarts was. None of the previous principals in the original book, except Dumbledore, seemed to be able to control everything in Hogwarts like Dumbledore, including the use of apparition. Erwin has already verified this with our Principal Black. The reason why Dumbledore was able to do it was because Dumbledore received the Gryffindor inheritance and had a quarter of the management authority over Hogwarts. That's why Dumbledore can do things that other principals cannot. In other words, Dumbledore is the only headmaster recognized by Hogwarts. In the original book, the Malfoy family and some other pureblood families, including the Ministry of Magic, jointly formed a so-called council, ability to appoint and remove the headmaster of Hogwarts. When I watched it at the time, I didn't think much of it. But after getting half of the ownership of Hogwarts, Erwin now feels that it is a joke. They can be appointed or dismissed, but that's all. As long as Dumbledore doesn't speak, the position of principal will always belong to him. Therefore, this council was used by Dumbledore to tease others. Or to put it another way, it was specially used to make those pure blood families, and the Ministry of Magic think they could restrict Dumbledore. Added a fake yoke to myself. It means the same thing as Erwin does to Hermione. Create a vulnerability for yourself that others feel they can control. After all, a person with no weaknesses and no possibility of control is really terrible, especially a strong man like Dumbledore. However, Erwin at least really brought out someone, even though it was a fake one used as a weakness. Fortunately for Dumbledore, Dumbledore was just being funny. To be fair, it would have to be Dumbledore who said he had a dark heart. Erwin groped his chin. If we say, we just say if. Erwin now controls half of Hogwarts' authority and can appoint and remove the principal. What would happen if Dumbledore was deposed? Erwin's eyes lit up. He thought it was quite funny, and Erwin thought it would have no impact. Dumbledore should be able to joke. At worst, I'll add his permissions later. Just for fun, it won't affect anything. Just do it if you think of it. Erwin directly used his authority to remove Dumbledore as principal. In the principal's office, Dumbledore had just opened his eyes and was about to wash up in his blue Starry Night pajamas. The next moment, a huge force came out. Dumbledore was thrown directly out of the window of the headmaster's office. Chapter 205. Dumbledore still had his toothbrush stuffed in his mouth, and there was foam at the corners of his mouth. He was suspended by the window of the principal's office, completely stunned. Fortunately, it is early and there are no students. Otherwise, the principal's image would collapse directly at this moment. Although, he himself has no image. If it weren't for his tyrannical strength, he would have become a comedian long ago. Dumbledore tried disapparating. Disapparation can still be used, but the principal's office cannot be entered. Dumbledore mobilized his authority and suddenly realized that his headmaster had been dismissed. And there is no doubt that the only one who can do this is Erwin. Thinking of this, despite Dumbledore's good character, his face turned a little dark. Erwin on the other side, after deposing Dumbledore. After feeling it, there seems to be no difference. Isn't there any earth-shattering news? Just then, there was a knock on Erwin's window. Erwin was startled. Turn around and look. Dumbledore was floating outside the window with a dark face. Erwin was stunned for a moment and opened the window. Principal? What kind of look do you have? When Dumbledore heard this, the dissatisfaction he had suppressed rose up again. Dumbledore said, "Don't call me principal. I am not the principal anymore." Erwin, what are you going to do? Erwin coughed twice. I'm just curious. Principal, please come in first. It's windy outside. I'll make arrangements for you to go back and that's it. Dumbledore came through the window. It fell on the floor of the dormitory. Erwin, you have obtained the inheritance of His Majesty Ravenclaw and His Majesty Slytherin. Your authority is more important than mine, but the position of headmaster cannot be joked about. Erwin had to admit that this time he was really out of curiosity, which was why he acted like this. It was indeed a bit rash. However, it shouldn't have any impact. Erwin didn't know that Dumbledore had been packed and thrown out of the headmaster's office. Otherwise, he wouldn't feel that way. Erwin said, "Sorry, Principal. I will arrange for you to go back now." As he spoke, Erwin used his authority and plan to arrange authority for Dumbledore. However, at this moment, an embarrassing thing happened. Dumbledore has just been dismissed, and if he wants to become the principal again, he has to wait for a month, commonly known as the cooling-off period. Erwin coughed twice. Principal, you may not be able to return to the position of principal. After Erwin explained it to Dumbledore, Dumbledore was in an even worse mood. His position as principal was arranged by himself after he obtained the Gryffindor inheritance, and he has never stepped down. Who knew there was such a restriction? The most important thing is that Erwin now has more authority than him. So if he wants to return to the position of principal, he can no longer make arrangements by himself. He can only ask Erwin to make arrangements for him. Erwin asked tentatively, "How about waiting for a month?" Advertisement, Dumbledore sighed. "Forget it. I just have to leave Hogwarts to do something. Let's talk about it when I get back." Erwin nodded quickly. The main reason for not being obedient is because of a guilty conscience. Although Erwin himself has no morals, he is probably a bit of a brat when he gets into trouble because of his curiosity. The most important thing is that he can't beat Dumbledore. That's what matters most. He was afraid that Dumbledore would give him a slap, and that would be the end of him. Erwin said, Principal, do you need me to open the door for you and go back to the principal's office?" Dumbledore said, "No need. I can use the password to go back. Otherwise, how do you think the previous principal returned to the principal's office? You and I are the only ones who have received the inheritance of the Big Four of Hogwarts over the years." After saying that, Dumbledore disappeared directly. Erwin knew that this guy was going back to pack his things. Bring a phoenix and change your clothes. You can't just wear pajamas and go out to do errands. After Dumbledore left, Erwin groped his chin. Therefore, the position of headmaster of Hogwarts is now vacant. So, Erwin's eyes lit up. Could he be a principal for fun? Thinking of this, Erwin planned to take action. At this moment, starlight surged. Seeing this familiar opening animation, Erwin knew that his portable grandma was back. Ravenclaw's figure slowly condensed. Your Majesty, are you back? Ravenclaw said, do you want to be the headmaster yourself? Erwin said, I just want to test what authority the principal has. Ravenclaw said, I advise you not to do this, otherwise, you are likely to be kicked out of the list recognized by Hogwarts. Erwin frowned. What do you mean? Ravenclaw said, Hogwarts is a living castle. The meaning of its existence is to protect the little wizards and give them a better learning environment. You can understand that Hogwarts Castle is also a teacher, just the kind of teacher who tends to be protective. So if you let yourself become the principal, Hogwarts will feel that you are messing around. After all, you have not passed the formal test and have not graduated. In that way, Hogwarts will think you are unreliable and will strip you of your management rights. Erwin was shocked. Can it still be like this? Ravenclaw nodded. Of course, the relationship between Hogwarts managers and Hogwarts is more like a symbiotic relationship. Hogwarts needs managers to manage Hogwarts, and Hogwarts needs managers to manage Hogwarts. Hogwarts will also provide power to managers. You should have discovered some, including your chief ring and crown. They are all gifts from Hogwarts. This is the first time Erwin knows this. This is a bit like the spirit in a fantasy novel. A superior artifact, the user is chosen, but not the owner. Erwin asked, what is the official test of Hogwarts you just mentioned? Ravenclaw said, the final exam at the end of 7th grade. Only those who pass the exam will be recognized as graduates by Hogwarts. Ah, that's it. Ravenclaw nodded. Of course, otherwise what do you think it is? Hogwarts is a castle and a school. Why does the school not have exams? Erwin felt a little disappointed. He thought it was a test of blood and tears between life and death, and he could write hundreds of thousands of words. But in the end, this is it? Erwin did not continue to ask this topic. Your Majesty, what did you say to Your Majesty Slytherin after I left yesterday? Ravenclaw said, don't ask what you shouldn't ask. Okay, I'm going to rest. Take me to see Helena tonight. Erwin looked slightly confused. Are you ready? Ravenclaw nodded. Some things always have to be solved, right? Erwin nodded slightly. As you wish, Your Majesty. Chapter 206. Ravenclaw's figure slowly disappeared. Erwin touched the crown on his head that remained invisible. Sighed. Right or wrong, who can tell clearly? I looked at the time, and it was almost time for dinner in the auditorium. After Erwin got dressed, walk out of the room. At the door, all the hidden prefects in Slytherin, including Pansy, who had just become the first-year hidden prefect yesterday, were waiting at the door. After seeing Erwin come out, they all bowed and shouted, Chief. Erwin nodded. He led everyone downstairs, where a group of little snakes were already waiting. Erwin was seen coming down the stairs. All the little snakes stood up. A dense crowd of little wizards stood in the common room. Chief. Erwin nodded. Yeah, let's go and eat. 1-inch the little snakes who are used to gang actions are now unwilling to even go to the auditorium alone. The group activities that had bored countless children in Dacia had become a fascination for these little snakes in Slytherin. The feeling of a large army walking in the corridor is really lovely. The 7th grade students who are about to graduate are also full of excitement. After all, they can now finally get involved. Grodia's face was covered in black lines. When he had the upper hand yesterday, he scared these 7th grade students. When he came back, some friends complained about him. Glodia was almost treated for autism. The large army marched towards the auditorium. Now the students at Hogwarts are used to the collective actions of the little snakes. Give way consciously. Apart from the envious glances, there was no fuss. After eating, Erwin himself planned to go to the library and read some books. Mainly because Hogwarts is really boring. There was nothing else Erwin could do except read. On the way to the library, the Hogwarts Management Authority in Erwin's mind suddenly started calling the police frantically. Erwin stopped, frowning. This feeling, someone is attacking Hogwarts? At the same time, Dumbledore, who was about to leave Hogwarts, also felt this message. Dumbledore frowned. The next moment, Dumbledore made the same choice as Erwin. The two of them operated at the same time and came to the outside of the castle. The location of Hogwarts is very good, although there are many ways to enter Hogwarts. But there is only one road leading to the castle gate. That's on the bridge outside Hogwarts. Under the bridge is the rushing river. It is also the place where the Elder Wand sank in the original book. The other side of the bridge. Wenda stood there holding the wand, as if waiting for Dumbledore. At the entrance of Hogwarts, an ordinary statue had been broken into stones. Two vortexes appeared. Dumbledore and Erwin appeared at the same time. The two looked at each other. Dumbledore took 2 steps forward, blocking Erwin behind him. Then he turned to look at Wenda. Advertisement after seeing Wenda's face clearly. Dumbledore's pupils were obviously constricted. When Wenda saw Dumbledore, the murderous aura in his body instantly rose. Like substance. Albus Dumbledore. Long time no see. Dumbledore had some memories in his eyes. Wenda, long time no see. Erwin's eyes lit up after hearing Dumbledore's words. Wenda? Is it the Wenda he thought of? Erwin looked at Wenda, who was wearing an evening gown and a top hat. Although he is full of murderous intent, he still has that outstanding temperament. The first time he saw her, Erwin knew that this Wenda was the one he thought of. French black rose, a black rose with thorns. Evil and elegant, powerful and charming. He is the dream lover of many wizards of his generation, but he is 100% devoted to Grindelwald. He is the first person under Grindelwald and the core of the saints. Wenda also noticed Erwin. Is this your student? Dumbledore said. Every child in Hogwarts is my student. Wenda sneered. You are still as hypocritical as ever. I don't want to talk nonsense to you. I'm here for Elvin Cavendi. Erwin was stunned for a moment. Came for him? Dumbledore's expression remained normal. He guessed Wenda's purpose. And Wenda only determined his goal this morning. The whole Diagon Alley was talking about Erwin Cavendi's battle. But for some reason, this incident did not make the headlines of the Daily Prophet. So Wenda didn't see Erwin's photo. Dumbledore said, I know, this is the person you are looking for, Erwin. As he spoke, Dumbledore moved a step to the side. Erwin's figure was revealed. Erwin was shocked. No, old B, just sold it to him like this? Without any hesitation? After hearing this, Wenda frowned visibly. He is Erwin Cavendi? Your disciple? Erwin said quickly, No, I think you have misunderstood, madam. I am not the principal's disciple. I am just an ordinary student at Hogwarts. Erwin didn't know Wenda's purpose of looking for him, but Erwin was very clear about Wenda's dislike of Dumbledore. Olby sold it to him. Of course Erwin had to cut off the contact immediately. Otherwise, even if Wenda didn't cause trouble for him, he might have taught him a lesson because of Dumbledore. Although if you have the identity of Dumbledore's disciple, you might get some benefits if you meet Grindelwald one day. But first you have to meet Grindelwald. Wenda, this thorny rose, will not let a disciple of Dumbledore go to see Grindelwald. Maybe Erwin would die on the steps up to the Nurmengard Tower. As for the cause of death, it may be that a psychotic wizard suddenly appeared in the sparsely populated Nurmengard and cast a death curse at Erwin. The murderer has been killed. Wenda can find a suitable murderer for you within 10 minutes. Therefore, it is the best choice to end the relationship with Oldby now. Sure enough, after Erwin finished speaking, Wenda's face obviously improved. Wenda looked at Dumbledore. I have something to say to Mr. Erwin, but you don't want to hear it, do you? Dumbledore spread his hands. Of course. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. With that said, Dumbledore disapparated directly and left without any hesitation. When love rivals meet, how can they be polite? Dumbledore walked away smoothly, but Erwin was numb. No. Is it so irresponsible? It is really reasonable to leave a little wizard like him here with the French Black Rose, which is among the top 5 most dangerous in history. He is also a student of Hogwarts, a first-year student. He promised to protect all students entering Hogwarts. What you were saying is fart. Damn Dumbledore, he is really not a good person. Chapter 207. Wenda looked at Erwin. Do you know how to protect yourself with Fire Shield? Erwin understood that he was here for the Fire Shield to protect himself. Who the hell leaked the news? Isn't this a bit too fast? I used it yesterday, and someone came to my door today? Or is there some special connection between Grindelwald and the Fire Shield? It has to be said that Erwin's IQ is still online. He had already guessed the truth. Knowing Wenda's purpose, Erwin was not worried anymore. As we all know, Wenda belongs to the villain camp, and the enemy is the decent camp, which is Dumbledore. Although this statement is a bit ridiculous, how outrageous is it that the Dark Lord uses the defensive magic Fire Shield to protect himself, and the White Devil uses the offensive magic Vulcan to clear the way? But since Erwin can protect himself with a Fire Shield, no matter what, he can't stand up to the upright ones. Then he is safe. Erwin nodded. Yes, ma'am. Wenda thought. Did you practice it yourself? Or who taught you? Erwin said, No one taught me that Fire Shield is a famous magic in the wizarding world. I admire His Majesty Grindelwald very much, so I learned this magic. Winda's world is simple. As long as you admire Grindelwald, you are one of your own. Sure enough, after Erwin said it, there was an obvious smile on Winda's face. Not bad, a very interesting child, Your Majesty. I feel your admiration. If there is a chance, I will help you convey it to the adults. I haven't introduced myself yet. My name is Winda Rogier. Erwin's acting skills are online. After hearing this, there was a look of shock on his face. Vinda Rogier? Sorry, madam, I didn't recognize you. I'm rude. If you don't mind, can I invite you into the castle for a drink? Winda shook his head. Forget it. Hogwarts can't apparate. I don't like it. Children, remember this sentence, no matter what time. Don't expose yourself to any possible danger. Erwin nodded. I understand, Ms. Vinda. I will remember it. But it's a pity that I can't leave in Hogwarts. Otherwise, I will take you to London to entertain you. Winda nodded. There will be a chance. I am here this time because of you. To be precise, I want to see you. Erwin said. Your Majesty Grindelwald? Winda nodded. Well, Your Majesty is very interested in someone who has learned Fire Shield protection. If you are lucky, you may be able to be taught by His Majesty. That will benefit you throughout your life. Erwin said. But I'm in school now, and I can't leave at will. Especially if I need to go abroad. Winda thought for a moment. When you come on vacation, I don't think adults have thought that the person who learned Fire Shield protection is actually a child. I will go back and tell the adults. Erwin nodded. Sorry to trouble you, Ms. Winda. I'm looking forward to meeting you. If I can get your teachings, I think it will be the honor of my life. The smile on Winda's face became even stronger. The eyes he looked at Erwin softened a lot. The more I look at Erwin, the more I like him. She felt that such a child must be accepted as a disciple by her own adults. He respects his master, his loyalty is guaranteed, and he is also very talented. Such a child is simply a gift from God to the saints. Winda came in a hurry and left in a hurry. It seems that he just came to bring a message. Although her initial plan was to take Erwin away by force. But because Erwin knew his interests, he was spared from going abroad temporarily. After Winda left, Erwin breathed a sigh of relief. Advertisement, sure enough. This Black Rose is a bit too scary. Even, she's stronger than Snape and other deans. This kind of strength really deserves the title of the first saint. Erwin had to admit that he was really greedy. Look at the saints. Look at the Death Eaters. Look at him again. Miserable. Simply miserable. Erwin didn't know at this time that in fact, he also had power in his hands. Old Tom, who is no weaker than Winda, and Rivers, who looks like a fool but is actually an old actor. But their hiding was too deep. So deep that even Erwin couldn't detect it. Erwin watched Winda leave and promised to contact Winda after arriving in Germany. Then he went directly back to his dormitory. After meeting Winda, Erwin no longer wanted to go to the library. He had to think about what to say after meeting Grindelwald. Erwin was unsure of Grindelwald's attitude towards him. Therefore, Erwin couldn't tell whether he was an enemy or a friend. Although Grindelwald had no reason to attack him, who knows? What if? As for missing Grindelwald, don't talk about it. Erwin can be sure if he really let go of Grindelwald's dove. Then the next time Winda comes, he won't have such a pleasant attitude. What awaits Erwin then is the result of facing the first person under the legendary wizard. And before Erwin could think about it, he figured it out. The door to Erwin's dormitory was suddenly pushed open. Along with it, there were voices of discussion. It's okay, Harry. We'll just wait in the dormitory for the chief to come back. Is this appropriate? We did not get Mr. Erwin's permission to enter Mr. Erwin's room. It's okay. The chief won't bother us with such trivial matters. But you can't touch the chief's things. We'll just wait quietly. While talking, a platinum blonde head came directly in. Erwin's face darkened. Draco turned his head and saw Erwin sitting on the bed. The smile on his face froze instantly. Draco Malfoy, who gave you the courage to break into my room? Draco was shocked for a moment. Chief, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. It's because we have something to ask you for help, but you haven't been there. You know, you have been busy recently. If I want to find you, I can only find you here. The dormitory is waiting for you. So, sorry, Chief, I won't do it next time. Draco was horrified. He didn't expect to run into Erwin head-on. Erwin looked at Draco like a quail. He said helplessly, Okay, come in. Harry, you come in too. The two walked into the room, standing there honestly, like two children who made mistakes. No, they themselves are children who made mistakes. Erwin said, Tell me, what happened again? Harry said, That's right, Mr. Erwin, that's Hagrid. He raised a dragon. But Draco said that if someone is found to be raising a dragon privately, he will be imprisoned in Azkaban. We advise him to if you can't answer Hagrid. Hermione will let us ask you. Chapter 208. Erwin's eyes lit up. Coming. Our Norbert is finally here, and the food for our pet eggs is finally here. During this period, with Hagrid's unremitting efforts, the hatching progress of Erwin's pet egg is very touching. We are now at 65% progress. However, the blood of magical animals in the Forbidden Forest has basically been collected. To say that there are still a little too few magical animals in the Forbidden Forest, the appearance of Norbert the Fire Dragon will bring the pet eggs one step closer to hatching. God knows how anxious Erwin was for this pet egg to be born. The main reason is that Erwin put in too much hard work. Well, it doesn't seem to be much hard work. It's all Hagrid's hard work. Of course, this is not important. What is important is that Erwin really wants to have a pet. Merlin cannot be directly hatched by merging the blood of beasts. Erwin said, I know about this. I told Hagrid that I will go to Hagrid's hut later. If you want to go there, you can wait for me first. After hearing Erwin's words, Draco and Harry's worries instantly disappeared. Okay, let's go over there. After saying this twice, he just planned to run away. Erwin said, Wait a minute, Harry, please go down and wait a moment. I have something to ask Draco. Harry didn't say much. Nod and leave. After Harry left, Draco stood there a little uneasily. It seems that he is afraid that Erwin will settle the score later. Erwin said, Don't be nervous, sit down. Draco sat on the stool. Erwin said, I heard that you gave Pansy a bad beating? Draco looked embarrassed. I was just careless. Erwin's face became a little cold. Careless? Draco, when you fight with others, no one will care whether you are careless or not. Every time you are careless, it will kill you. I have taught you this truth. Draco lowered his head after hearing this. Sorry, Chief. Erwin said, You don't have to apologize to me. I know you and Harry are playing adventure games, but playing adventure games is not a reason for you to give up on improving your strength. Draco, I said, I am very optimistic about you. But you disappoint me. Draco didn't dare speak. Erwin said, I will tell Glodia that I will give you makeup lessons later to increase your practical ability. Before the holiday, I will personally test you. If you fail to meet my requirements, you know the consequences. Draco nodded. The coldness on Erwin's face disappeared. So, now tell me, where is the exploration game between you and Harry? Draco perked up upon hearing this. Barabara told Erwin everything in detail. Although Harry and I found the Philosopher's Stone, we didn't know who wanted to steal it. We went to Dumbledore, but Dumbledore said we were overthinking it. But Harry always felt a little unsafe. Erwin nodded. He just wanted to confirm to what extent these two items were found. Does it have any impact on the original plot? Now it seems that nothing has changed since Ron was replaced by Draco. Oh, one change is that the trio didn't suspect Snape. Erwin said, Okay, go ahead. Mark my words, Draco. No matter what you are playing, but don't let your grades fall. Your ranking in Slytherin has dropped a few places, so everyone knows that I am very optimistic about you. But if you perform so poorly, it is my people who have been lost. Draco nodded vigorously. I know, Chief. I will work hard. After Draco left, Erwin was in no hurry to go to Hagrid. Instead, he took out the notebook he picked up that day. Advertisement, I don't know who left it. Erwin flipped through it casually. Eyes widened. Darling, he seems to have picked up something extraordinary. The things recorded in this notebook are a lot of things about the cultivation of herbal medicines. It's very detailed and has some magic about food. Erwin looked at the yellowed paper on the cover. Could this be Hufflepuff's notebook? If this was really Hufflepuff's notebook, it would be a huge profit. But even if it's not a Hufflepuff notebook, it must be the notebook of a Hufflepuff student master. The things recorded in it are too detailed. Although Erwin had read some of the knowledge when he was inherited from Ravenclaw, there were different opinions and some tips on it. This is still very helpful to Erwin. He is the godson of the potion master. It would be really embarrassing if you failed in potions. After reading the notes for a while, Erwin put away his notebook, and now it was time to harvest the nutrients from his pet eggs. Dragon? It should be interesting. Erwin snapped his fingers, and the next moment, he appeared outside the Forbidden Forest. Hagrid's hut is not far away. Erwin came to the door of Hagrid's hut. Raise your hand and knock on the door. Hagrid's voice came from inside. Who? The voice sounded a little wary. It's me, Hagrid, Erwin. Erwin just finished speaking. Hagrid opened the door. There was some excitement on his face. "Oh, Erwin, you are finally here. I have been waiting for you for a long time, and by the way, I haven't congratulated you yet for becoming the head of Slytherin. That is an achievement that even the Dark Lord has not achieved." "You are great." Erwin smiled and said, "Thank you, Hagrid. Do you want to invite me in to sit down?" Hagrid stepped aside. "Of course, Erwin. Please come inside quickly." Erwin nodded and walked into the cabin. In the hut, the new trio consisting of Draco, Harry, Potter, and Hermione were all present. After seeing Erwin, the three of them stood up. "Chief Erwin, you are here." Erwin nodded. "Well, everyone, sit down." Hagrid closed the door, and Erwin looked around the hut, but couldn't find any place to sit. "Just stand there." "Hagrid, would you mind taking your dragon out for me to see?" Hagrid said. "Of course I don't mind. Wait a minute, I hit it just now. I thought you didn't come so soon." As he spoke, Hagrid pushed open the only small room in the hut. The next moment, a wisp of flame shot straight towards Hagrid's door. Hagrid was startled. Erwin tapped his wand lightly, and then the wisp of flame was pulled directly into the fireplace by Erwin. Hagrid said with lingering fear, "Thank you, Erwin. This little guy is so aggressive." Erwin said, "This is the nature of dragons. They are overlords, not small animals. It is still small now, and the power of dragon flames is also small. If it grows up, a puff of dragon flames can burn down your hut. Not even the Forbidden Forest can escape its poisonous hand, which is why privately raising dragons is not allowed, because they are really too dangerous." Chapter 209. A look of disappointment flashed across Hagrid's face. Although his IQ is not high, but Erwin's words were made very clear, so he could understand them. It was nothing more than telling him that raising a dragon was an absolute no-no. But this wasn't the first time Erwin had said these words to him. In fact, he had already made preparations. Hagrid came out of the hut holding a small dragon. The little dragon was really very small when he was just born, only about the size of a palm. "It's just that this slap is Hagrid's slap," Hagrid said happily. "Look, Erwin, this is Nob. Isn't it cute? Oh my God, it is simply a work of art." Erwin looked at Norbert and had to admit that dragons were such mythical creatures. Even Erwin was curious. However, this kind of dragon with 2 wings is really very different from the divine dragon that moves the wind and rain in Erwin's mind. But Erwin is a good friend. He never lets his friends down. Erwin nodded. "Indeed, a powerful creature. Even if it is weak, its ferocity can still be seen." Draco on the side was also very excited. He really likes dragons very much. His name is Xiaolong. When he was at home, old Malfoy would take him to the dragon farm whenever he had time. It's just that those giant dragons are too fierce. Even our young Master Malfoy has been so close to a dragon for the first time in his life. Noble was placed on the table, his eyes full of fierceness. He looked at the people around him with eager eyes. His eyes swept over everyone's body. Seems to want to destroy everything. In the mouth that had just grown a few fangs, there was a faint flame that was gathering momentum. At this moment, Norbert turned around and saw Erwin. The next moment, Noble's brewing evil came to an abrupt end. Then there was some confusion in a pair of dragon eyes. After a moment, Norbert crawled a few steps towards Erwin's direction. Arriving in front of Erwin, Hagrid said, "Erwin, it seems that Norbert likes you very much." Erwin said nothing. To be precise, all magical animals will like Erwin, especially this kind of dragon creature. Not to mention Erwin's golden talent, which brings favorability in front of magical animals. Let's just talk about Erwin's bloodline, the dragon speaker. Although the Cavendi family does not inherit the ability to control dragons, but dragons will also naturally get close to people who have the talent of dragon whisperer blood. Erwin raised his hand, approaching Norbert. Seeing this, Hermione quickly said, "No, Erwin, this is too dangerous." Harry Potter nodded. "Yes, Mr. Erwin. No matter what, Noble is a dragon." Even Draco and Hagrid, who like dragons, nodded, not wanting Erwin to approach a dragon so impulsively, even if it is still young. Erwin said, "It's okay. Even if it really wants to attack me, I can react. And I don't think it will. Are you right, Norbert?" Norbert growled twice. The look he looked at Erwin was full of flattery. Advertisement. Erwin smiled and pointed his finger on the top of Norbert's head. A cold touch came from Erwin's fingers. Don't tell me. This thing feels quite comfortable to the touch. Bing cool. And it's very hard. The specific reference objects are like the blades of those cold weapons." Erwin said, "Is that so? But it's too long. so let's call it Norbert. I'll contact a dragon farm later and let you go there. They'll call you Norbert, so it's easier to remember. Hagrid and others were confused and looked at Erwin. Hagrid couldn't help but ask, Erwin, what are you talking about? Erwin said, nothing, just talking to Norbert. I have a special talent. I can communicate with magical animals. When Hagrid heard this, his eyes instantly lit up. He didn't want to care about how outrageous it was to communicate with magical animals. Rather, he sincerely envied Erwin's ability that he had always dreamed of. After hearing this, Hermione felt that her outlook on life had been impacted. Is this a real wizard? Sure enough, she is still naive. Do all wizards have their own abilities? So why doesn't she? This is what Hermione cares about. Turning to look at Draco. Seeing that Draco's face was also full of surprise, Hermione understood. This guy can't do anything. On the contrary, Harry Potter had a thoughtful look on his face. He thought about his ability to talk to snakes. From this point of view, this is the basic operation of a wizard. Sure enough, he is not the special one. Erwin took in everyone's reactions. He didn't say much. Erwin was never the kind of person who liked to hide himself. As the saying goes, only mediocre people hide their heads and show their tails. Erwin looked at Hagrid. Hagrid, can I get some of its blood? Hagrid scratched his head. If Norbert agrees, I have no problem. Erwin smiled and said, I don't think Norbert would refuse, right? Norbert nodded, stretched out his arm honestly, and placed it in front of Erwin. The fleshy wings on both sides still covered his face. Erwin looked amused. Don't worry, little guy. It won't hurt. Look at how timid you are. After such a long period of development in the wizarding world, it has already had its own set of procedures for obtaining dragon blood. After all, just before Dumbledore announced the use of dragon blood, the wizarding world was already using dragon blood. But at that time, their use of dragon blood was still too one-sided. With the help of professional techniques, Noble didn't even feel anything. Erwin had already drawn blood from 2 large porcelain bottles. Hagrid was a little worried. Erwin, this won't be too much. Will it have any impact on Norbert? Erwin shook his head. Don't worry, Hagrid. Although it looks like a lot, for powerful creatures like dragons, this little blood will not have the slightest impact on them. Erwin put away the porcelain bottle. Then he flicked Norbert's head lightly with his fingers. Okay, coward. It's over. Norbert carefully put down the meat wings. I flexed my paws and found nothing special. Then he gently rubbed his head against Erwin's palm. Erwin touched Noble's head and said, Hagrid, you can keep him for at most half a month. During this period, Draco, write a letter to your father and arrange for someone to come and pick Noble up for you. Our dragon farm. Hagrid often visits when it's convenient. Draco nodded. He was happy to do this kind of thing. Hagrid was a little reluctant to let go. Half a month? So soon? Can it be longer? I really can't let go of this little guy. Chapter 210. Erwin shook his head. I'm sorry, Hagrid, although I know you are reluctant, but there is no way. You have to understand that according to the dragon's growth rate, it will become very big in half a month. By then, your cabin can't accommodate it. Its instinct will make him hunt in the Forbidden Forest, even if I can restrain him, but this is not a long-term solution. Hagrid, you don't want other creatures in the Forbidden Forest to suffer, right? Hagrid lowered his head after hearing this. I know, Erwin. Erwin nodded. In half a month, on Christmas Eve, many little wizards will go home. There are few students in Hogwarts, so it is not easy to attract attention. When the time comes, I will arrange for someone to come to you directly. Pick up Norbert from his cabin. Unlike in the original book, Erwin does not need to let Harry Potter and a few other idiots take Norbert to the tower. Because Erwin can directly open some permissions of Hogwarts and let them come to Hagrid's cabin to pick people up. Even if Erwin has the leisure, he can go to the dragon farm in advance to familiarize himself with the place. Then he could come back and apparate with Norbert, but Erwin didn't have that much time. After explaining some trivial matters to Hagrid, Erwin teased Norbert for a while longer, strictly prohibiting Noble from wanting to follow him, and telling Noble that he must behave in these half months after getting Noble's consent. Erwin leaves Hagrid's hut with the new trio. On the way back to Hogwarts, Draco hesitated to speak. Erwin said, If you have something to say, just say it. Don't be coy. Draco said, Chief, I just want to know, why did Hagrid not let go after Harry, Hermione, and I tried to persuade him for so long? But when you went there, it seemed that you didn't persuade him, you just informed him. Tell him what to do. But he can agree. Hermione and Harry Potter on the side also looked at Erwin. Erwin stopped and turned around. Actually, the truth is very simple. Hagrid knows that you are doing it for his own good, but Hagrid's love for magical animals exceeds your imagination. He can even lose his mind for magical animals. This is his only hobby. So, even though he knows that you are doing it for his own good, he still is not willing to give up the opportunity to raise a giant dragon. As for why he listened to me, it's very simple. Because Hagrid knows that I know more than him. In other words, he trusts me. He thinks I can help him come up with the best solution. I gave him the chance to raise a dragon. Although the opportunity is only half a month, it can be regarded as fulfilling his dream. Moreover, Hagrid knows very well that if I ask him to raise him for half a month, then no one will have a chance during this half month. Make trouble for him. As long as he doesn't take Norbert out of Hogwarts, I can find a way to smooth this matter for him. Draco and the other three looked thoughtful. Erwin continued, if you want others to convince you, you must have the ability to solve problems. As you said, Hagrid and I didn't persuade him, but directly helped him arrange it. It's because Hagrid knew that I have the ability to solve this matter. So, Draco, you three, remember, let yourself have the ability to solve all problems. This is the reason for your efforts. Erwin didn't go any further. For children of their age, what Erwin is saying now is profound enough. The three of them also needed time to digest what Erwin said. Growth doesn't happen overnight. Growth requires a leader, and you need to sum it up after encountering it again and again. Erwin can tell them some truths, but how much they can absorb depends on their own understanding. Fortunately, the understanding of these three seems not bad. Although Draco is a second-generation ancestor who can only call him father in the original work. But in fact, Draco is actually quite good. Whether it's finally sticking to his good intentions or Draco's growing up step by step, he is just a spoiled child. Advertisement, but this cannot deny that Draco, as a pure-blood family, has continued for generations. If nothing else, let's just say that the world that old Malfoy and Draco had seen were beyond what ordinary children could compare with. There is a saying in Daxia that only when all 3 generations are rich is a wealthy businessman, when all 5 generations are rich is a wealthy family, only when all 9 generations are rich can it be called a noble family. This is not only talking about wealth, but also knowledge. A well-educated person who has attended high-class gatherings since childhood, even if his own achievements are limited, his knowledge and experience are still there. Therefore, Erwin has always said that he is very optimistic about Draco, not just to draw a pie. He really has plans for Draco, and Draco will also have a place in Erwin's territory in the future. In addition, Hermione is smart in her own right. So although she cannot fully understand what Erwin said due to her age and experience, Erwin can be regarded as planting a seed in him. As for the final Harry Potter, although in the original novel, our savior is a bit silly. But as the saying goes, children from poor families have already become rich and have experienced so many miserable Harry Potters. He has a quality that others don't have, and that is resilience. A successful person possesses many qualities, some of which are formed innately, but most of them are cultivated later. What is innate is called talent. No matter how good the talent is, it still needs polishing in the later stage. The story of Shang Zhongyong tells us that in the later stage, the training is far greater than the innate talent. Among these qualities, resilience is the most difficult to cultivate. This requires many unfortunate experiences and a hard life to polish it. Resilience determines a person's upper limit. Although Erwin looked down on the so-called savior, he had to admit that if Harry was trained well, he would be able to achieve great things in the future. This is why Erwin is willing to waste time teaching the 3 of them. Because they are malleable talents, Erwin is used to casting a wide net. As long as there is a fish in the net that can jump over the dragon's gate, it will be profitable for Erwin. Ignoring the new trio, Erwin went straight back to the Slytherin common room. He was very busy and had no time to chat with the 3 of them. He had other things to do. Sit at your desk. Erwin leaned back in his chair, closed his eyes, and took a short rest. Time passed bit by bit. In a blink of an eye, it was after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Erwin opened his eyes. Stand up. Stretched. It's almost time. Erwin just finished speaking. Old Tom contacted Erwin. Master, everyone is here. Erwin exhaled a breath. Then, the real game begins. Chapter 211. Erwin snapped his fingers lightly. The next moment, Erwin's figure disappeared from where he was. Appearing again, Erwin had arrived at Diagon Alley and Cavendi's magic materials shop. The shop door is closed. Inside the shop, there were 3 people standing. Old Tom and our beetle reporter Rita. Finally, there was a strong man in a black suit. As the vortex appeared, Erwin's figure appeared. Old Tom and the strong man lowered their heads. Master, Rita also quickly saluted. Sir. Erwin nodded. Old Tom brought a chair over. Erwin sat on it. John, long time no see. Strong John smiled and said, Yes, master. It's been 2 years. Erwin said, After coming to the magic world, do you have any thoughts? John said, It's amazing, but also terrifying. Their personal strength is too strong. Even some powerful wizards, if they fight head-on, guns will not cause any harm to them. Erwin nodded. Yes, it is indeed powerful. John, you know the purpose of calling you here. I want to gain a foothold in the magic world. I want to gain a firm foothold. John smiled and said, Of course I know, master. I know my responsibilities. Ever since the master saved me and my family from those bastards 4 years ago, I have always been ready to serve the master and Cavendi. Family sacrifice. Erwin nodded. I will take care of your family. In the name of the Cavendi family will support your direct family members within 3 generations from now on. Even if they do nothing, Cavendi the family will also give them a prosperous life. John knelt on the ground on one knee. Master, there is no need for this. It is my honor to sacrifice for the Cavendi family. As long as I can help the master, I will do anything. Erwin waved his hand. You deserve this, John. You are very important, and it is related to all my future plans. There can be no mistakes. John said seriously, I know the young master and I'm ready. I promise not to miss the young master's affairs. Erwin nodded. Is there anything else you want to do? John thought for a moment. Master, can I call you master? Although I know that the family has ancestral rules that no one under the age of 13 is allowed to take over as the head of the family. However, I have no chance to see the day when you take over as the head of the family. Erwin looked at John. He didn't expect that John would actually make such a simple request. Erwin sighed. In that case, John, today I will officially take over as the head of the family. John, then notify everyone in the family. And you, John, you will be the first witness. After John listened to Erwin's words, eyes read, John Edmund, I offer my loyalty to you and my master, Lord Erwin, the head of the Cavendi family. Old Tom on the side was also full of excitement. Owner, Old Tom has been waiting for this day for too long. Erwin looked at the excited Old Tom and John. Can also understand them. In fact, after knowing his family's bloodline, Erwin already understood why his ancestors left behind such a seemingly useless rule. Advertisement only when they are around 13 years old. The direct descendants of the Cavendi family will gradually unlock the power of their bloodline and become qualified to become the head of the family. John kissed the hem of Erwin's wizard robe lovingly, then stood up. Master, I'm leaving. I will watch in another world the day when the Cavendi family dominates the wizarding world. After saying that, John opened the store door directly and walked out of the store. There was no hesitation. Erwin clenched his fists slightly and didn't say a word for a long time. After a moment, Erwin took a deep breath. Looking at Rita, Rita, do what you should do. Be detailed, be clear, and let everyone know. Rita nodded. Just when I was about to leave, Erwin said, Wait a minute. Rita stopped. Erwin hesitated for a moment and said, If John can't do it, then help him. Rita's face paled slightly. Then he lowered his head even further. Yes, sir. I understand. After Rita also left, Erwin stood by the window, looking at Diagon Alley, which was still crowded with people. Sighing, Tom, do you think I am a little too cruel? Old Tom stood behind Erwin, looking at Erwin's back in front of him, which seemed inexplicably desolate. His eyes were filled with distress. No, master, this is what should be done. Your plan cannot be separated from John. You should make more preparations. Erwin sighed. To be honest, when I rescued John, I just thought he was a talent. He was someone we needed very much. Apart from that, I did feel compassion and I rescued him. His family saved him. I wanted to give them a good life so that they would no longer have to live a life of having to compete with wild dogs for food. However, today I have to push him to death with my own hands. Old Tom said, Master, John is grateful to you and loyal enough to you. He has always hoped that one day he can use his life to repay your kindness and the kindness of the Cavendi family. This is what he is willing to do. The plan requires him, and only John can do it. Erwin said, Tom, I seem to be softening. Tom didn't say anything. From an emotional point of view, Tom, like the current Erwin, have a human touch. But for reasons, he prefers Erwin before entering Hogwarts. Because that Erwin is what the Cavendi family needs most. Ruthless, cold-blooded. All actions are based on interests. Once a person is full of emotions, he will have weaknesses. Tom didn't know what to say. Sometimes he really wanted to reveal all the truth to Erwin. Take Erwin away and stay away from the whirlpool of the family. After a while, a smile appeared on Erwin's face. Hogwarts is really a magical place. No matter how much I don't want to admit it, it still has an impact on me. Old Tom, please inform me and prepare to avenge John. John will give us a just reason. Then we must seize this reason and let everyone in the wizarding world know the name of the Cavendi family. Knowing my name, Erwin, I will make the purple of the Cavendi family known. Lotus blooms in every corner of the wizarding world. Just paint with the blood of your enemies. Tom bowed slightly. Yes, master, as you wish. The wizarding world will soon know how sharp the Cavendi family's weapons are. Erwin opened the window, and a ray of breeze ruffled the tips of Erwin's hair. It's time for a change in the wizarding world. Chapter 212. Midnight. At the door of the Ravenclaw common room, Erwin stood under the eagle-shaped brass ring, looking at the bloody, eagle-shaped copper ring that was being taught a lesson by Ravenclaw. Erwin couldn't help but chuckle. This story begins 10 minutes ago. Ravenclaw asked Erwin to take her to meet Helena. As a result, this vengeful copper ring stopped him. I have to play guessing games with Erwin. As a result, Erwin's riddle, the eagle-shaped brass ring, could not be answered. Then this copper ring that couldn't afford to play began to cheat. Don't open the door to Erwin. Although Erwin can also directly apparate in. However, in order to prevent himself from rushing in, if a little wizard who was not asleep saw him, he would be in trouble again. So Erwin gave up this best way. Ravenclaw himself was hesitating in the crown, and finally wanted to see his daughter. She was also a little nervous and excited. As a soul, she has become more emotional now. As a result, this broken piece hit her hand. Ravenclaw pointed at the brass ring and taught him a lesson. Tong Huan didn't dare to say a word. He was as honest as a dead thing. After scolding for 10 minutes, Erwin never thought that a combination of words could have such great attack power. Anyway, if Erwin were that brass ring, it would be smoking right now. Finally, Tong Huan opened the door obediently and let Erwin and the others in. Too cute to be honest. Ravenclaw was interrupted by the copper ring, and his anxious mood calmed down a lot. The Ravenclaw common room was quiet. Since the prefect's bedtime check system was introduced, the little wizards have gone to bed much earlier. Although Erwin is now the chief, Erwin still doesn't want to deal with such troublesome matters. Therefore, it is still Grodia who watches the night. By the time Grodia graduated, Erwin had already thought of his next candidate. That is the current hidden prefect of 6th grade. Erwin planned to let these hidden prefects take over one by one. As for working by yourself, it's impossible. There is absolutely no way Erwin can do this work. Ravenclaw came under his statue. Looking at the familiar Ravenclaw common room around him, his eyes were full of nostalgia. Erwin stood aside quietly and did not disturb her. Erwin knew that Ravenclaw needed time to reminisce about the past. After a while, Ravenclaw sighed. What a long-lost place. It has not changed at all after so many years. It is the same as before. It just has many more portraits. Erwin followed Ravenclaw's gaze. At this time, the moving portraits on the walls of Ravenclaw also stayed there quietly. Put your palms on your chest, bow slightly, and show respect to Ravenclaw. They did not disturb Ravenclaw, nor did they ask why Ravenclaw became a soul. All they knew was that the master of Ravenclaw College had returned. Ravenclaw said, Erwin, Helena, where are you now? Advertisement. Erwin used his authority to sense it. In a room upstairs. Ravenclaw nodded. I'll go up and have a look. You don't have to come up with me. Thank you for bringing me here, Erwin. I will go back to find you later. Erwin nodded and said nothing more. Although I really wanted to witness the reunion of mother and daughter, it was obvious that this was not appropriate. Erwin also knew his role very well, which was to lead the way and find Helena by the way. With curiosity in his heart, Erwin came to the room of requirement. Continuing to practice his magic, he now cherishes all the time he can spend improving himself. It was around 3 o'clock in the morning before Erwin used the last bit of magic power in his body to apparate back to his room. After enduring the exhaustion, I changed the sheets. Erwin fell asleep. The next day, when Erwin opened his eyes, he was startled by Ravenclaw standing by the window. Your Majesty, when did you come back? Ravenclaw said. I came back in the early morning. Erwin nodded. I fell asleep too fast. Have you seen Miss Helena? Ravenclaw nodded. Yes, I've seen it before. Erwin said. Then what are you going to do next? Stay in Ravenclaw? Live with Miss Helena? Ravenclaw shook his head. My soul can only be attached to the crown. What, do you plan to leave the crown in Ravenclaw? Erwin smiled. If your majesty needs it, yes. Ravenclaw glanced at Erwin in surprise. Erwin said, My lord, you don't have to look at me like this. It's true that the crown is a very useful magic tool, but I feel that a little more wisdom or a little less wisdom won't have much impact on the things I face. So, if you need it, I can leave the crown and place it on top of your statue in the Ravenclaw common room. That way you can see Helena at any time. Ravenclaw looked at Erwin's expression. Erwin was sincere. In fact, Erwin's words were really not polite. He obtained the management rights of Hogwarts, which was already a rare gain. If you want to compare the diadem with Ravenclaw, the diadem is really not as helpful to Erwin as Ravenclaw. Therefore, Erwin would rather use the crown to exchange gratitude with Ravenclaw. Then Erwin will have the opportunity to ask Ravenclaw for advice. With the guidance of the four giants, Erwin can truly take off. Ravenclaw shook his head. No need. Helena has her own life, and she will no longer live in self-blame. She can enjoy life again from another perspective. Of course, if I want she is dead, Erwin, you have to take me to see her. I still can't leave the crown for too long now. Erwin nodded. Of course, I know. Ravenclaw smiled and said, However, in exchange, I allow you to ask me for advice if you have any questions. However, don't ask too simple questions. I have no idea of teaching children. After saying that, Ravenclaw's body slowly dissipated and turned into starlight pouring into Erwin's crown. The corners of Erwin's mouth rose, as if he had achieved his goal in a way he didn't expect. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. Good morning, my lord. Erwin waved his wand and the door opened. Charlotte came in, with a smile on his face. Erwin stretched. Get out of bed and go to the mirror. Tidy up your somewhat messy hair. Look at that smiling face in the mirror. Erwin raised his finger and pointed at the corner of his mouth in the mirror. Today is another new day. Charlotte put toothpaste on Erwin's toothbrush. Then he stood aside respectfully. Yes, it's a new day, my lord. Chapter 213. School time is boring and boring. In the blink of an eye, 3 days flew by. It's Wednesday. Unlike the peace in Hogwarts, there has been no peace at all in the magical world for the past 3 days. Early in the morning, several owls flew into Hogwarts. The same Daily Prophet arrived in the hands of Professor McGonagall, Professor Snape, and others. Before breakfast, Snape flipped through today's Daily Prophet as usual. As the newspaper opened, Snape's expression suddenly changed. Wisps of murderous intent escaped from Snape's body. Damn it! How dare they seek death? The magic around Snape exuded a violent aura. A pair of eyes were like a cold, poisonous snake, staring at the front page of the newspaper. At the same time, Professor McGonagall's office. Professor McGonagall held the coffee cup, put on her glasses, and opened the Daily Prophet. The next moment, the coffee cup in his hand fell to the ground. Professor McGonagall didn't care about the debris on the ground. His eyes were full of horror. Yaxley family, are you crazy? There were other professors who also saw the newspaper. Of course, that includes students. In the Slytherin common room, Draco threw the newspaper to the ground with an angry look on his face. Damn Yaxley. How dare they do this? I want to tell my dad that the Yaxley family must pay the price. Pansy on the side also had a cold expression on her face. Draco, I support you this time. After breakfast, I will write a letter home. The Yaxley family must pay the price. The other young wizards from pure-blood families also looked ugly. Everyone was filled with indignation. There is no doubt that if there is a member of the Yaxley family standing in front of them now, then they will take action without hesitation. Grodia frowned. Okay, everything will be decided by the chief. What you do is your business. Now, Pansy, come up with me. The chief should be awake by now. We have to wait outside the door. Pansy nodded. Then the two of them went upstairs and waited at the door of Erwin's room with several other prefects. In the room, Erwin sat on the bed. He had woken up long ago. The Daily Prophet had also been delivered to him a long time ago. Front page headlines, handwritten by our Beetle reporters. The title is simple. The Cavendi family sent people to negotiate with the Yaxley family and were directly killed. In the report, all details were recorded. It even included the Yaxley family patriarch personally killing the Cavendi family envoy. There are even photos. In the photo, John's body was lying in a pool of blood, and the Yaxley patriarch had a cold look on his face. The wand was still pointed at John's body on the ground. Now, there are reports from Beetle reporters. Advertisement. It details the feud between the Cavendi family and the Yaxley family. It's because the Cavendi family's magic materials conflict with the Yaxley family's business. Therefore, the Yaxley family began to suppress the Cavendi family. This is no secret in the wizarding world. Many people know it, and it has also caused dissatisfaction among many people. In Cavendi's shop, they spent the least gold galleons to buy the best materials. And the same materials will double, or even multiply several times, when placed in Yaxley's shop. Under the pressure of the Yaxley family, Cavendi's shop closed. Of course, this price was also deliberately set by Erwin. Does he make money? Earn, but very little. However, Erwin never took it seriously. His store was not used to make money from the beginning. His purpose is to go to the Yaxley family. It was clear that the Yaxley family had taken the bait. From the moment they began to spare no effort to suppress the Cavendi family, their results were already doomed. In the article, the Beetle reporter set up the Cavendi family as a diligent and conscientious businessman. But he was ruthlessly oppressed by the Yaxley family. There is not a word between the lines that refers to oppression, but every word expresses the meaning of oppression. Moreover, at the end of the article, reporter Beetle also subtly raised a point under Erwin's instruction. That is, pure-blood families monopolize the business in the magic world, making it impossible for many wizards to buy cheap materials. Cut off other wizards' financial opportunities. The Cavendi family took the initiative to bow their heads and went to negotiate with the Yaxley family, but were ruthlessly killed by the Yaxley family. The most important thing is that John is a muggle, not a squib, a real muggle. At this time, in Yaxley House, the patriarch of House Yaxley also saw the Daily Prophet. A pair of eyes instantly turned cold. The newspaper in his hand fell hard to the ground. Damn, damn, how dare she, this damn reporter, dare to write like this, Daily Prophet? Have they forgotten who is their master? Why do they dare to report this kind of report? Contact the Daily Prophet immediately and let them find that damn reporter and write a new report. A subordinate of the Yaxley family hesitated and said, Master, we have already contacted you. However, the Malfoy family, the Parkinson family, and the Selwyn family jointly protected the reporter, and they were the ones who drove today's newspaper coverage. The head of the Yaxley family looked slightly startled. How could it happen so fast? But suddenly, the head of the Yaxley family was stunned. He seemed to have grasped a thread and figured out many things. Okay. It turns out that I was calculated from the beginning. Elvin Cavendi, well, he is worthy of being a member of the 8 families. From the beginning, he wanted to take action against our Yaxley family, but we never provoked him at the beginning, which is unreasonable. Or, he is attacking the people behind us. By the way, that must be the case. In Malfoy Manor, Lucius sat in the study. His brows were furrowed. Look at the Daily Prophet on the table. Narcissa opened the door and came in. Lucius, what's wrong with you? Lucius handed the newspaper in his hand to Narcissa. Narcissa looked at it. The Yaxley family is looking for death. The kid has lowered his attitude, but they still dare to insult him. Those who dare to kill him really don't want their lives. The Ministry of Magic will not let him go. Lou Hughes, we have to do something to teach Yaxley a lesson. Lucius looked at the furious Narcissa and said softly, Don't worry, this matter is not that simple. Don't you see that there is any problem in this? Narcissa frowned and said, What's the problem? That kid Erwin was bullied. That's all I saw. What other problems could there be? Chapter 2:14. Lucius was helpless. Was Narcissa stupid? Of course she was not stupid. Her surname was Black before she got married. The Black family has 2 characteristics. First, their family is full of handsome men and beautiful women. Second, their family is full of smart people. Otherwise, he wouldn't be ranked far ahead among pure-blood families. The reason why Narcissa didn't see the problem was that Narcissa didn't even think about the problem at all. All she cared about now was that Erwin was bullied. Lucius said, We have all seen Erwin. With that child's character, do you think he can make the choice to let his own people go to the Yaxley family to die? Narcissa frowned. Yaxley has gone crazy. He will take action. Even I am surprised. Lucius shook his head. Narcissa, we all know a lot of things about Erwin in school. Xiaolong told us, but you haven't paid attention to the deeper things. Erwin's character, from his time in Hog, some of the things does, including what we know from the Muggle world, is that he is a very cautious person. He will not put himself in danger, and the same is true for his own people. Moreover, Erwin is a true Slytherin. He understands the principle of profit first. Everything he does has a purpose. Do you really think, if you take a step back 10,000 steps, do you think Erwin is a person who will bow to others? Narcissa also calmed down at this time. You mean Erwin did it on purpose? It's impossible. He's just a child. He wouldn't have such a scheming mind. Moreover, what is his purpose? It doesn't make sense. Lucius said, "It seems that we have all underestimated this child. Or in other words, we have ignored how difficult it is for this child to start integrating the Renton underworld at the age of 6 and spend 5 years in Renton. For example, we always subconsciously ignore muggles and look down on muggles. But we forget one thing. Erwin was also a muggle at that time. He had no magic, but he could do such a thing. If we think differently, at that time, Erwin is a wizard, and his subordinates are also wizards. If he attacks the magical world, then he is equivalent to conquering the entire British magical world." At this point, Lucius himself couldn't help but take a breath of air. He ignored too much and thought too simply. He underestimated Erwin's terror. Narcissa also began to think about it at this time. "You said it, it seems true. God, how difficult it has been for this child to do something that the Dark Lord has not done in these years. He really so pathetic." Lucius rolled his eyes. Sure enough, Narcissa's focus is really different. "Narcissa, let's not talk about whether Erwin is pitiable or not. Let's talk about Erwin's purpose. I think he should have planned to attack Yaxley from the beginning. It is very possible that before he entered the magic world, just know something, he is here just for revenge." Lucius revealed his final guess. Although it is a very unreliable guess, it is indeed the most likely. As for Erwin, if he knew about Lucius's thoughts, he would definitely accuse him of being wronged. He wanted to find a pure-blood family to take away and establish a foothold in the magic world. But it was a real coincidence that he chose Yaxley in the first place. He met Hagrid, obtained the supply of raw materials, and started a business that was sure to make a profit without losing any money. Then I realized it was Yaxley's property. Later, he met the illegitimate son Barton, and then he decided to take action against Yaxley. It's just such a coincidence that Yaxley turned out to be the enemy's hyena. All we can say is that Yaxley bumped into him himself. Advertisement, Narcissa said. Then if that's the case, what can we do? Lucius said. If nothing else happens, the Ministry of Magic will come forward soon. After all, it is a felony for wizards to kill muggles. Even pure-blood families cannot ignore it, but I think Yaxley will find a solution. But I don't know what Erwin wants to do, so we can only push them and not interfere too much. Otherwise, I'm afraid it will affect Erwin's plan. The kid doesn't know that we are allies, so he didn't ask us for help. One thing, I need to tell him as soon as possible. What happened to the little b************* D from the Weasley family last time should make Erwin have some guesses, but he will not completely believe us. The only one who can make Erwin believe now is Selwyn. So we have to help the Selwyn family. No matter what they want to do, we can give it a try. Narcissa nodded. I think what Lucius said makes sense. Lucius said, next, let's see how Erwin's game is planned. I can't imagine how Erwin wants to deal with Yaxley. It's getting more and more interesting, this kid. It's really interesting. It's hard not to admire you. In Yaxley Manor, Chief Yaxley calmed down and began to think about what had happened. Calculated step by step after the appearance of Cavendi's magic material shop. Finally, the head of the Yaxley family worked out some details, including what happened that Muggle came to the manor that day. That Muggle was very arrogant, even rude. Although it seemed like a negotiation, every word was offensive. This was also the reason why the head of the Yaxley family couldn't help but kill John. Now it seems that the Muggle deliberately provoked him, just to make him take action, just to die. However, the head of the Yaxley family is a little confused about this. Why deliberately seek death? Just to carry out his crime of attacking Muggles? After thinking for a long time, the head of the Yaxley family could only confirm his own idea. The head of the Yaxley family sneered. Naive. Children are children. Do you think that just one crime of attacking Muggles can completely bring down the Yaxley family? Ridiculous. The background of a pure-blood family is not that of a lonely 8-year-old like you. I can understand that if you hold this idea and want to use this crime against me, then you are really too naive. The game has just begun. At this time, someone walked into the house. Master, the Minister of Magic Cornelius Fudge is here with the Aurors and wants to see you. The head of the Yaxley family snorted coldly. They came very quickly. Let them in. I want to see what Minister Fudge plans to do. A subordinate on the side asked, do we need to prepare manpower? The head of the Yaxley family shook his head. No need. A dog will not bite its owner. He knows very well who he relies on to sit in this position. In Hogwarts, Erwin stretched. It's time to get up. After early self-study, it's time for the Ministry of Magic to come to Hogwarts. The drama is about to begin. Chapter 215. After tidying up his wizard robe, Erwin walked out of the room. At the door, the hidden prefects of each grade were already waiting for Erwin. Seeing Erwin coming out, he bowed and said hello. "Good morning, Chief." Erwin nodded. "Let's go." Then, Erwin took the lead and walked forward. Glodia came to Erwin. "Sir, do we need to do anything about Yaxley?" Several other hidden prefects also looked at Erwin. They just waited for Erwin's order, and then they would contact their families and attack in groups. Erwin smiled and said, "No, you don't need to worry about it for the time being. I have my plans, so you can just go to class with peace of mind. If necessary, I will inform you." Several hidden prefects looked at each other and said nothing. Nod. There were no disturbances in the early morning self-study. The only problem was that Erwin discovered that there were more and more early self-study students in Slytherin. There are a large number of little badgers in Hufflepuff, and many second and third-year badgers also come to Slytherin's study room after applying to their dean. Erwin welcomes everyone who comes and answers their questions. After all, these are workers who contribute reputation points to Erwin. However, in recent times, Erwin has found that the reputation value provided by these students seems to be getting less and less. The main reason is because these students actually learned to study on their own under Erwin's guidance. And because there were so many students and they communicated frequently with each other, they could find answers to many questions themselves without even asking Erwin. This makes Erwin a little helpless. Although these students are getting better and better, Erwin is still very pleased. But the number of good wage earners has shrunk like this, which makes Erwin a little annoyed. However, thanks to several reports by the Daily Prophet, Erwin is now becoming more and more famous in the wizarding world. The reputation value is steadily increasing every day, and Erwin will not be too sad without these wage earners. Soon the morning self-study ended, and we were in the auditorium. Erwin sat down to eat and glanced at the professor's chair. The positions of Dumbledore, Professor McGonagall, and Snape are all vacant. Dumbledore left Hogwarts because of Professor McGonagall and Snape. If nothing else happens, they should be arguing with those from the Ministry of Magic at this time. And the reality was just as Erwin expected. In Professor McGonagall's office, Fudge sat on the chair, and opposite him sat Professor McGonagall. Snape's figure was shrouded in black robes, standing quietly aside. It's just that the cold aura around him made the Aurors brought by Fudge be on guard. They didn't dare to go too far away from Fudge, for fear that Snape would be killed by the Minister of Magic if he didn't hold back. Fudge said, "Professor McGonagall, we have no malicious intentions this time. We are just here to get some information from Mr. Cavendi and see if we can reconcile." Professor McGonagall said coldly, "Reconciliation? Yaxley's attack on Muggles is already a serious crime in itself. You are still here to mediate. The Ministry of Magic is against Yaxley, right?" Advertisement. Fudge frowned. "Professor McGonagall, the Ministry of Magic is fair. Even if Principal Dumbledore is here, I can say this. I have already understood the matter. Yaxley killed someone, even though it was he was a melon, but he went on behalf of Cavendi, and he was already a member of the wizarding world. Therefore, the accusation of attacking a Muggle was not established, but Yaxley had killed someone after all. Therefore, the crime of murder was established. The Yaxley family also handed over the culprit, and it has been detained by the Ministry of Magic. The Yaxley family is willing to apologize and compensate Cavendi. This is what we are here for this time." Professor McGonagall looked at the Minister of Magic in front of him coldly. No one was a fool. Obviously, what happened this time is that the Ministry of Magic is in Yaxley. According to the regulations of the Ministry of Magic, anyone who does not know magic is called a Muggle. Even if they come to the wizarding world, they are still Muggles and wizards. You can't take action against Muggles. This law protects too many people, including the students at Hogwarts. Many of them were born in Muggle families. According to the Ministry of Magic, the parents of these students are safe. No guarantee. At this moment, Snape said from the side. In this case, why not call Erwin over to ask about the specific situation? Professor McGonagall looked at Snape doubtfully. Professor McGonagall was a little puzzled by Snape's sudden defection. After all, they had discussed that they would keep this matter out of Hogwarts and not let it affect Erwin. They will also give Erwin an explanation. But now Snape wants to call Erwin here again. For what reason? Snape glanced at Professor McGonagall and nodded slightly. Professor McGonagall sighed. "In that case, Snape, please call Erwin." Snape nodded, then folded his clothes and left the office. How could Snape not be able to figure out a problem that Lucius could figure out? Not to mention that Snape knew Erwin far better than Lucius. As far as Snape's own wisdom is concerned, He can mediate between the two camps. If Snape had no brain, he would have died long ago. Therefore, he also guessed that Erwin should be behind this matter. It was also clear that Erwin wanted to take action against the Yaxley family. But the only thing that confused him was that Erwin had always been very methodical in doing things. But this time it seemed that he had made some mistakes. The things Erwin had brought out now could not completely bring down the Yaxley family. Even the Yaxley family couldn't do it. In the auditorium, Erwin saw Snape appearing at the door of the Great Hall. Erwin knew that the actors were already in place. The drama can begin. Erwin put down his chopsticks and straightened his clothes. The other little snakes turned their attention to Erwin and then to Snape at the door of the auditorium. Grodia stood up. Then, the other little snakes stood up and looked at Erwin. The other little wizards in the auditorium also put down their tableware. They all looked at the Slytherin table. After all, Slytherin suddenly made such a big noise, which was very eye-catching. Erwin waved his hand. Everyone sit down and eat. The prefects of each grade will take them to morning exercises after eating, and then go to class. I have something to do, remember? Don't be late. After speaking, Erwin walked directly towards the door of the auditorium. When passing by Grodia, Erwin patted Glodia lightly on the shoulder. Don't worry, it's okay. The show has just started. It can't happen so fast. Sit down. Chapter 216. Come to the door of the auditorium. Erwin greeted. Good morning, Godfather. Snape nodded. Turn around and walk towards Professor McGonagall's office. Erwin followed. The two of them walked like this for a while without anyone speaking. After walking through the corridor, Snape stopped. Looking at Erwin, the Minister of Magic Fudge is here. He is a loser. He can only sit in that position because of the support of the pureblood family. He is greedy for power. The Yaxley family is his most powerful backing. They avoid the important and take the easy. The Yaxley family's attack on Muggles was reduced to just a murder charge, and the Yaxley family also introduced a so-called culprit. Erwin's expression remained unchanged, and he nodded slightly. Snape said, You seem to have guessed it? Erwin smiled and said, That's right. I have done a lot of responses, including Yaxley's response. After all, we are a pure-blood family that controls the wealth and power at the top of the magic world. I don't have any. I hope I can implement this. Snape frowned and said, Since you have a plan, that's fine. However, it's not that simple to bring down the Yaxley family. There are many people in the Yaxley family, and among the existing pureblood families, Yaxley Kesley can be ranked in the top 3. Many matters in the Ministry of Magic are related to them, so it is difficult to completely eliminate them. But this time things are very big. You can take the opportunity to raise some conditions, and then slowly to develop your family. What you need most now is time. Erwin shook his head. Godfather, they won't give me time. After hearing this, Snape was silent for a moment. If necessary, I will take action. I have some potions in my hand, and these potions make some people flock to them, and they will do things for these potions. If it doesn't work, I will eventually, if you can take action personally, I will not let them take action against you as long as I am here. Erwin looked at Snape and felt Snape's determination. Erwin smiled and said, Godfather, things haven't reached that point yet, and my purpose has never been to use this step to bring down the Yaxley family. I know very well that I can't do it. Godfather, believe me, I have my plan. Snape nodded. Okay. If you need anything, come to me at any time. After finishing speaking, Snape did not wait for Erwin's response. Keep walking forward. Erwin followed Snape. Not long after, we arrived at Professor McGonagall's office. The office door is open. Erwin and Snape walked straight in. In the office, Fudge looked at Erwin and Erwin who walked into the office. His eyes fell on Erwin. He also came to the Chief Challenge 2 days ago. I also saw how powerful Erwin was. The reappearance of the fire shield prevented him from sleeping well for the past 2 days. He seemed to see another Dark Lord rising, and he was afraid. He was afraid that the power in his hands would be attacked. Therefore, he sent the Beetle reporter to write a report to suppress Erwin's reputation. Advertisement, but when the Beetle reporter returned, he actually told him that he had found nothing. At that time, he thought it was because Erwin was so powerful that the Beetle reporter had no chance to take advantage of him. But as soon as today's report appeared, Fudge understood. This little wizard, at the age of 11, actually used some means to control his subordinate's tongue. This made Fudge very uncomfortable and even more wary of Erwin. This time around the Yaxley family, apart from the fact that Yaxley supports him as Minister of Magic, he cannot do without the support of the pureblood family. There is another purpose, which is for Erwin. Erwin saluted Professor McGonagall. Good morning, Professor. Professor McGonagall nodded. Good morning, Erwin. This is Minister Fudge of the Ministry of Magic. He has something to ask you. Erwin turned to look at Fudge. He greeted you politely. Hello, Minister Fudge. I have heard of your name a long time ago, but I have never had the chance to meet you. I also wanted to wait until the holidays to see if I can find someone to introduce me to visit you. After all, you are the one who manages the Ministry of Magic so prosperously, allowing us to live a stable life. Fudge heard this. It was very useful in my heart. He suddenly felt that Erwin didn't seem to bore him that much anymore. Fudge stood up and said with a smile, This is what I should do. If you are willing, you are always welcome to be a guest in my house. You are the most powerful little wizard I have ever seen. Many adult wizards are not as good as you. In your case, when the chief challenged me, I was also watching the battle. It was so exciting that I thought it was two Aurors fighting. Erwin smiled and said, You have given me the reward. So, is it because of the Yaxley family that allows you to come to me in person? Fudge nodded. Yes, first of all, I am sad about the misfortune that has happened to the Cavendi family. Erwin, I am sorry that such a thing has happened to you. As he said this, Fudge looked at Erwin with a little more pity. Erwin sneered inwardly. They are all veteran actors. Who can be better than whom? Erwin's eyes turned red. John, we have known each other for many years, and he saved my life. He helped me too much, and it was because of me this time that he went to the Yaxley family. He suffered a murderous attack. I don't blame anyone. I can only blame John for his bad life. He is a poor man. He has children and a wife. But now, they are separated forever. However, I believe that the Ministry of Magic will give me a fair. After all, Minister Fudge, you are a great and just Minister of Magic. After hearing this, Fudge didn't know how to answer the question. In Erwin's words, the status of this dead muggle has been infinitely elevated. It even gave Fudge the feeling that this victim named John was the number 2 figure in the Cavendi family. Fudge hesitated for a moment and said, Of course, kid. I will give you justice. The Ministry of Magic is fair and just, and the Yaxley family has sent the murderer to the Ministry of Magic. He will be taken to Azkaban soon. He will experience the most painful punishment. I am here just to reconcile the conflict between you and the Yaxley family. If possible, I hope you can sit down and talk face to face. Downplay your conflicts to prevent what do you think if another misunderstanding occurs. A cold light flashed in Erwin's eyes. Sure enough, this Fudge is really a good dog. Misunderstanding, murderer, contradiction? It's a ridiculous statement. Anyone with a discerning eye knows what's going on. The Daily Prophet even posted the photo. It seems that Fudge is determined to be a good dog. But that's okay. Fudge is greedy for power even though he has no ability. Erwin will never use this kind of person. Since you are a dog, you don't have to hold back when you beat the dog later. Chapter 217. Erwin said, Of course, if you are willing to mediate, that would be great. I have no objection. A smile appeared on Fudge's face. The development of things today seems to be surprisingly smooth. Of course, the smoother the better. Fudge himself thought that if Erwin did not agree to mediate, he would have other means. In his opinion, he is just a child. What kind of brain can you have? Why don't you just rub it as much as you want? He, Connery Fudge, was someone who could arm wrestle with Dumbledore. Fudge said, In that case, let's set the time in the afternoon. The sooner it ends, the better. What do you think? Erwin nodded. Of course, I also want to end it as soon as possible. Fudge nodded. Then go to Yaxley Manor? Erwin frowned slightly. Before Erwin could speak, Professor McGonagall was the first to speak. No, you cannot leave Hogwarts while Erwin is in class. If you want to talk, you must come to Hogwarts. Hogwarts has the obligation to protect students. Erwin gave Professor McGonagall a thumbs up in his mind. That's right, it has to be Professor McGonagall. This is the best compliment. Although Erwin didn't think Yaxley would be so crazy as to attack him directly. But everything is afraid of accidents. A gentleman does not stand under a dangerous wall. This is the principle taught by our ancestors. Fudge thought for a moment. That's fine. I will go back and inform Yaxley. Wait until the afternoon. Let both parties meet at Hogwarts, and the Ministry of Magic will intervene. After Fudge settled the matter, he didn't stay long and left directly with his people. After Fudge left, Professor McGonagall looked at Erwin. Erwin, don't be afraid. The professors will protect you, and no one will bully you. Erwin nodded. Thank you, Professor. Professor McGonagall said, This is what we should do. Erwin, if nothing happens, you can go back to class. Erwin nodded. He said hello to Professor McGonagall and Snape, then turned and left. After Erwin left, Professor McGonagall looked at Snape. Snape, what do you think? Snape said, Erwin has his own plans. This is his family's business. We can't interfere too much. However, I will protect Erwin. No one can do anything to Erwin in front of me. Professor McGonagall nodded. These pure-blood families are going too far now. Snape said nothing. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Unlike what Professor McGonagall thought, Snape was now thinking about how feasible it would be to break into Yaxley Manor and kill the head of the Yaxley family. After leaving Professor McGonagall, Erwin communicated with the Purple Lotus Mark. Contacted Tom. You can start the next step? Yes, I understand, Master. Disconnect. Erwin had an inexplicable smile on his face. Advertisement. So now, let the Ministry of Magic see what Cavendi is. On the other side, in Diagon Alley, Tom disappeared into the shop, appeared again, and arrived at Cavendi's manor. Rivers was waiting in the yard. Saw old Tom appear. Rivers' eyes lit up. How's it going? Old Tom nodded. Well, everything is going according to the Master's plan. The Master said that we can start the next step. Rivers grinned. His eyes filled with bloodthirsty light. It's finally starting. To be honest, I've been patient for too long. Old Tom frowned. Don't go too far. The most important thing is not to expose yourself, otherwise, those people will probably find us. Although we are not afraid of death, the Master cannot leave our help for the time being. Rivers nodded. I understand. Don't worry, old Tom. Over the years, I have become accustomed to not using magic. To be honest, this thing is much easier to use than magic. While speaking, Rivers weighed the equalizer in his hand. Old Tom said, The Master said that times have changed. This sentence not only refers to the Muggle world, but also the magical world. After today, the Cavendi family will shine among the stars. Rivers' face was also full of excitement. By the way, Alva did appear in the beautiful country you asked me to check, but disappeared quickly. I traced their traces and finally found out that they might have gone to Germany. Old Tom frowned. Germany? Are you sure? Are they related to those rebellious Solents? Rivers shook his head. I don't know either, but according to some clues I found, it seems so. However, it shouldn't have anything to do with Solent. Solent is a traitor, a damn traitor. If the above four families cannot tolerate them, Alva will not cooperate with them. Tom thought for a moment. Does anyone else have news? Rivers said, No. I can only confirm that they fell into the hands of Solent, but I don't know where they are being held. If you ask me, we should have a showdown with the Master and let the Master use the family's means to find them. Old Tom shook his head. No, it's not time yet. The Master's seal has been unlocked, but the bloodline has not been fully stimulated. Now he is definitely no match for that B*************** D from the Solent family. If the Master wants to save people, he will fight with that B************ D. Yes, we have to wait a little longer. The Master is already very powerful now, but it is not enough. We can only tell the Master when he is stronger. Rivers said, How long will it take? With the two of us here, plus the current Cavendi family, we will not necessarily lose. Old Tom said coldly, Do you think the Solent family is as fragile as these wizards now? We are all from the lower four families. Don't you know the horror of ancient magic? Keep waiting until the Master discovers our hidden magic. Then the Master will know everything. Rivers sighed. I don't know how long it will take. Forget it. You have the final say. Old Tom said, It's going to be very soon. I have a feeling that the Master will soon have that kind of strength. By then, the Cavendi family will once again show its claws to the entire magical world. Okay, let's prepare for the Master's request first. Something, the Master said. He wants to make a big noise. Rivers nodded, then left to prepare. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Among the Cavendi family, trucks drove out of the manor. The truck is covered with canvas. I don't know what is being transported. After that, many cars drove away one after another. There were several strong men in black suits sitting in each car. These people were the core strength of the Cavendi family. The Cavendi family came out in full force and attracted too many people's attention. Everyone is curious about what the Cavendi family is going to do. Even the royal family was alarmed. However, the pure-blood families in the wizarding world were not aware of such a big movement, because they never cared about things in the Muggle world. Arrogance itself is the original sin. Chapter 218. The wizarding world looks down on Muggles, including Yaxley. Therefore, this kind of big news that can arouse Cavendi in London, but the Yaxley family who is about to become a party knows nothing about it. Cavendi's current family is too big. Although, Cavendi only controlled a small dark side of Renton, but many of the Cavendi family's peers do. Even if it's some big and prosperous organizations, it doesn't matter what you're doing if they want to come to London. You have to submit a post to the Cavendi family. Tell the Cavendi family your purpose of coming and obtain the Cavendi family's consent. This is Renton who belongs to the Cavendi family. No one wants to be an enemy of the Cavendi family, because the Cavendi family is a bunch of crazy people. This is a recognized thing in the dark world. The Cavendi family does things regardless of the consequences. If someone bites the Cavendi family, even if it is a slight bite, Cavendi will always take action in a desperate manner. Therefore, everyone knows that although the Cavendi family is not the strongest in the dark world, it is definitely the one that cannot be provoked. Such a big commotion in the Cavendi family has made people panic. Everyone thought that the Cavendi family was going to expand their territory. After the convoy left Renton and arrived in the next city, several dark families in the next city were even more frightened. They were afraid that the Cavendi family would take action against them. Fortunately, the Cavendi family has no such plans. The convoy drove away safely. We passed through many towns along the way and it was quite noisy. Erwin knew nothing about it. He was already sitting in Professor McGonagall's office. There are a few more chairs in the office. At this time, the head of the Yaxley family and Fudge were already in place. Erwin arrived late, but Snape sent him here. Erwin walked into the office. He said politely, "Sorry, get out of class just ended. I'm late." The patriarch of the Yaxley family snorted coldly. Erwin smiled, without the slightest thought of having an attack. But Snape doesn't have such a good temper anymore. Snape drew out his wand directly. "What noise did you make just now?" The patriarch of the Yaxley family suddenly became furious. "Severus Snape, who gave you the courage to point your wand at me? Others are afraid of you, but I am not afraid of you. What, does Hogwarts want to start a war?" As soon as the words came out, Professor McGonagall slapped the table and stood up. "Are you trying to scare Hogwarts? Hogwarts will never be afraid of anyone or any force." Fudge's face turned dark. "What the hell? The real owner hasn't spoken yet. Why is the Yaxley family going to fight with Hogwarts?" Fudge quickly smoothed things over. "Don't be so impulsive. Don't be so impulsive. We are handling things with peaceful purposes." Erwin looked at Snape and shook his head slightly. Snape snorted. "Put away your wand." Professor McGonagall also sat back down. Advertisement, but Erwin clearly saw a look of disappointment on Professor McGonagall's face. Wait a minute. Why is Professor McGonagall disappointed? Oh, is it because there is no chance to use the spell cast by Sherdun? It seems that in the original book, Professor McGonagall was extremely happy after using this spell. She also said personally that she had wanted to try this spell for a long time. Gwai. She sat up in shock while dying of illness. The militant was actually herself? Sure enough, any love of peace is fake. Even Professor McGonagall has her own expectations. Fudge saw both parties calm down. Wayketcha breathed a sigh of relief. "Erwin, Professor Snape, please sit down first." Erwin smiled and nodded. "Sit on a chair, very close to Yaxley." Yaxley looked at Erwin with murderous eyes. Erwin didn't seem to notice. Instead, he smiled at Yaxley. Fudge said, "Then both parties have arrived, and I also know something about the conflicts between you two. Now I can talk about the demands of both parties." Erwin had no intention of speaking first. Instead, he looked at Yaxley. Yaxley was not polite and said directly, "I was lax in my discipline and let my men kill the Cavendi family. Now the culprit has been captured by the Ministry of Magic and will be sent to Azkaban soon. Of course, Yaxley must the family is also at fault. So Yaxley is willing to apologize and allow the Cavendi family to continue selling magic materials in Diagon Alley to compensate. However, the Cavendi family must pay the price to the Yaxley family unified." After finishing speaking, Yaxley looked at Erwin. Erwin's expression remained normal. Fudge nodded. "Well, the conditions are very good. I think it's okay. What do you think, Erwin?" Irvine said, "I have 2 questions for Secretary Fudge." Fudge nodded. "Of course, just ask." Fudge was all smiles. In his opinion, the matter was settled. Sure enough, children are children, and they can be fed with a little sweetness. And he will appear on the Daily Prophet again in the future, single-handedly mediating the conflicts between the 2 families. He was the only minister of magic to bring peace between the 2 families, and this was a rare improvement to his reputation. Erwin said, "First of all, the first question, regarding the conditions proposed by the Yaxley family, I would like to ask Minister Fudge, when will opening a shop in Diagon Alley to sell items require the consent of others besides the Ministry of Magic? Is it? Cavendi Magic Materials Shop, all procedures are complete, there is no violation of regulations at all, and it is stamped and recognized by the Ministry of Magic. Erwin finished speaking. Fudge's expression changed. He frowned. He seemed to be thinking too much. Erwin wasn't that easy to deal with. The key is, there seems to be nothing wrong with Erwin's problem. Since when will the permission of a pureblood family be required to open a store in Diagon Alley? Is the Ministry of Magic in charge of this magical world, or is it the pureblood family? Thinking of this, Fudge subconsciously looked at Yaxley. Yaxley also frowned. Erwin's words directly pushed the Ministry of Magic and the pureblood family into opposition. If it were someone else, this problem would be easy to solve. But Fudge is different. Fudge is greedy for power, and he is afraid that his power will be taken away by others. The most important thing is that this guy really has no brains at all for power. He even dared to confront Dumbledore just for the power in his hands. And Erwin captured this in Fudge. Fudge's weaknesses are too obvious, and everything that may affect his rights is within his range. Don't consider the gap between the enemy and ourselves, just do it. The kind of idiot who dared to stand up to Dumbledore. Chapter 219. Yaxley was about to open his mouth to round out what he just said, but Erwin had no intention of giving him a chance. Continued to speak. The second question is also about the conditions that Chief Yaxley just mentioned, that our prices must be consistent with Yaxley's prices. As far as I know, as early as 30 years ago, the Ministry of Magic there is a rule that the sales price of all shops in Diagon Alley is not allowed to be higher than the market price, but there is no lower limit. In other words, even if I lose money, I will not break the slightest law. On the contrary, Yax chiefly, according to the laws of Diagon Alley, no one is allowed to interfere with prices in any form. Am I right? Minister Fudge. Fudge's eyes widened, looked at the aura side. The aura was very sensible and flipped through the book quickly. After a moment, he nodded to Fudge. Fudge understood that there really was such a law. None of his ministers noticed this, but Erwin actually noticed it. Erwin looked at Patriarch Yaxley calmly. Every word and every move made by Patriarch Yaxley was in Erwin's estimation. Therefore, Erwin was already prepared to deal with it. Chief Yaxley looked at Erwin hard. At this moment, he seemed to understand why his master, the Solent family, had said that the Cavendi family was the most terrifying among the 4 families above. At that time, he didn't understand that the Cavendi family, which was descended from the same line, had the smallest population, so there was nothing to be afraid of. But now he understands. The reason why it is passed down from generation to generation is because each generation of successors of the Cavendi family is terrible, and one person is enough. Erwin continued. So, I think the conditions of the Yaxley family are unreasonable. Minister Fudge, what do you think? Fudge nodded. Well, that makes sense. Chief Yaxley, you should think about it again. Chief Yaxley looked at Fudge. His eyes were full of anger. Fudge still looked at him fearlessly. The Yaxleys get it. Fudge was now dazzled by power, and he felt that his rights were threatened. So he entered a state of dementia. At this time, he no longer cared about being a good dog. He just wanted to take the opportunity to suppress the Yaxley family. The patriarch of the Yaxley family snorted coldly and said, Then I wonder what the Cavendi family wants? The culprit is now dead. In the fight between wizards, people died. The Ministry of Magic arrested them in accordance with the law. This is explained. The most that the Yaxley family can do is to be lax, and that's all. Fudge nodded. He also felt that what Chief Yaxley said made sense. After all, as a wallflower, this is how he always does things. Erwin said, Then, I have another question. I remember Minister Fudge said that the Yaxley family said that if John went to Yaxley Manor on behalf of the Cavendi family, then he is a member of the wizarding world. Even if he has no magic power and enters the magical world, he is still considered a member of the magical world. Is this the truth? Fudge nodded. That's right, that's right. Erwin said. So, if you follow what the Yaxley family said, does it mean that as long as you enter the magical world, you will get rid of your Muggle identity, regardless of whether he has magic power or not? Advertisement. Fudge nodded again. He felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't help thinking about it because this was the reason Yaxley had thought up to get out of guilt, and naturally he couldn't refute it at this time. Otherwise, it would be a grave sin for Yaxley to attack a Muggle. Chief Yaxley looked at Erwin with a frown. He didn't know what Erwin meant when he mentioned this matter at this time. In his opinion, Erwin has reached the end of his game with this move. There was no room for change. He had been cleared of this crime. He even found a scapegoat, so that no matter what, he could not get involved in this matter. Erwin said, Then if we follow what Patriarch Yaxley said, Does it mean that the parents and family members of the current Hogwarts students from Muggle families are already considered members of the wizarding world? Fudge nodded. Yes, that's true. The corner of Erwin's mouth rose. I had nothing to do that day and read some old newspapers. I found a very interesting report in it. There was one Death Eater at the beginning. He was designated as a Death Eater. In the end, during the trial, someone begged for mercy. Although he was a Death Eater, he was indeed controlled. There was no blood in his hands. Only once when he was fighting an Auror, the curse accidentally hit 2 Muggles, and those 2 Muggles later, he was sentenced to death for harming Muggles. However, according to the Yaxley Patriarch, the 2 Muggles had a child who was a student at Hogwarts, and by definition, they were also magic. People in the industry, does that mean that the Ministry of Magic made a mistake in what happened in the first place? It seems that Minister Fudge had not yet been elected Minister of Magic at that time. You were still the director of the Department of Magical Trials at that time, and you personally tried this case. When Fudge heard this, his expression changed instantly. The expression of Chief Yaxley on the side also changed. They knew the original case very well. They all knew about the Death Eater who was sentenced to death. And that Death Eater had a brother who was Fudge's only opponent when he ran for Minister of Magic. Many of the requirements of the Ministry of Magic are very strange. If someone in the family is serving time in Azkaban, it will not affect me. But if someone is sentenced to death, it will affect everyone in the family, such as being unable to serve in the Ministry of Magic. Therefore, Fudge seized on this point and directly confirmed the charge of indiscriminate killing of Muggles. Only then did the competitor get rid of him. Among them, the Yaxley family contributed a lot. If you want to keep this kind of case to death, it will be very difficult. In order to force Fudge into that position, Yaxley also made many illegal operations. Fudge was a bit stuck. Now he couldn't accept this at all. If he made a mistake, then he, as the Minister of Magic, had done his best. But if it is said that the verdict was not wrong, then the excuse Yaxley used to escape guilt is pure nonsense. Once the charge of killing Muggles is confirmed, the Yaxley family will be greatly affected. For a moment, everyone present was silent. Erwin picked up the teacup on the table and took a sip of water. He waited patiently for Fudge and Yaxley's responses. How could he be arguing with these 2 idiots without any preparation? It can only be said that these people in the magic world really have too many flaws in their work. Erwin only needs to use his brain to check a little bit, and he can find out. Clearly. Chapter 220. And this is the gift Erwin prepared for the power-hungry minister, as well as his once familiar enemy and his brainless hyena. Fudge and Yaxley looked at each other. Fudge said, Sorry, Erwin, I have something to say to Chief Yaxley. Can we leave first? After Fudge finished speaking, Professor McGonagall was about to refuse. After all, they weren't stupid. Fudge and Yaxley were obviously on the same team. There is definitely something fishy between 2 people. So now we go out together. The purpose can be imagined. It was designated that the counterparty should give a confession. Just when Professor McGonagall was about to speak, Erwin was the first to say, Of course, sir. If you need it, I can go out and make room. Fudge said, That's not necessary. After that, Fudge and Yaxley left the office. The 2 had just left. Professor McGonagall said, Erwin, you shouldn't let them go out to talk. They have their own plans. They just see that you are young, and they are uniting to deal with you. Erwin smiled and said, Professor, please be patient. I think I will get justice, right? Even if the Ministry of Magic cannot give me this justice, you and my godfather will not let me be bullied, right? Professor McGonagall glanced at Snape, sighed. Forget it. You just have your own ideas. Don't worry, kid. I won't let them bully you. Believe me, Hogwarts is more powerful than you think. As long as you are in Hogwarts, no matter who it is, I will never agree to bully you. Erwin bowed slightly. Thank you, Professor. Erwin leaned back in his chair. You could vaguely hear the low-pitched bickering between Fudge and Yaxley at the door. After a while, Fudge and Yaxley walked into the office. Erwin looked at Yaxley with a cold face and smiled. It seems that they have figured out a way. If nothing unexpected happens, the preparations for this drama will be over soon. Erwin couldn't think of any other solution. The only way he could think of was to follow the plan in his mind. Only in this way can the Ministry of Magic and the Yaxley family be excluded. Otherwise, there is only one way to implement this crime. It is impossible to overturn past cases. Fudge would not allow it. So the only option would be to let the Yaxley family be convicted of killing Muggles. But the impact on the Yaxley family was even greater. So, they only have one way left. A road that Erwin prepared for them. In other words, a dead end. Fudge walked into the office and looked at Erwin and said, "Sorry, Erwin, the information I know is wrong. Because I was the one who sent the message, I may have misunderstood Mr. Yaxley's meaning. Now, let him explain." Bar. Erwin nodded. Professor McGonagall and Snape frowned. I don't know what Yaxley and Fudge are planning to do. Erwin knew it and couldn't help but smile. Of course, Mr. Yaxley, please. Chief Yaxley said, "There are some things I need to explain. Just last Sunday, the Yaxley family has declared war on the Cavendi family. In the name of a pure-blood family, a family war is launched. Therefore, Cavendi, that person in the family, whether he is a muggle or not, he belongs to the Cavendi family and is an enemy. According to the law, during the pure-blood family war, all enemies who are attacked will not be affected by the law, as long as no harm is done to the innocent." As soon as these words came out, Snape and Professor McGonagall's expressions turned ugly at the same time. Snape said, "You are lying. If pure blood fights for the family, both sides must be pure blood families, and the magic world must be informed that we have not received any news." Yaxley said, "We have already issued a notice. There is already an insider among the pure blood families. If you have doubts, I can contact someone to prove it. As for you not receiving the news, it may be that the news has not been transmitted. I will inform you personally now. As for the Cavendi family, you and I both know very well that they are a pure blood family, and they are a pure blood family with a legacy." Advertisement. Snape's face turned cold. "You're looking for death," Yaxley said. "No one else in the wizarding world is allowed to interfere in the war between pure blood families. This is a matter between pure blood families. Snape, do you want to represent Hogwarts in the war? In the pure blood world, during the family war, whoever participates will be attacked by other pure blood families, so think about it." Snape calmed down after hearing this. "Yaxley, I am Erwin's godfather and a member of the Cavendi family. I will submit my resignation to Hogwarts today. Starting today, you'd better sleep with one eye open." Heard Snape's threats. Yaxley looked ugly, but he couldn't ignore Snape's threat. After all, Snape's threat was truly fatal. Erwin looked at Snape. "Godfather, don't be impulsive. Trust me, it won't happen." Snape looked at Erwin with confusion in his eyes. The corners of Erwin's mouth raised, looking very happy. Suddenly, Snape had a guess in his mind. Could it be that this was Erwin's purpose from the beginning? But how did Erwin know about the pure blood family war? You know, it's been too long since anyone in the magic world started a pure blood family war. As long as a pure blood family war is launched, it means that one party must be defeated. The last time there was a pure blood family war was in Germany. Hundreds of years have passed. But looking at Erwin's expression, Snape felt that this was Erwin's purpose from the beginning. Erwin stood up and looked at Yaxley. Then, "I, Elvin Cavendi, on behalf of the Cavendi family, accept the pure blood family war and fight to the death." Yaxley's pupils shrank slightly. Not sure where Erwin's confidence came from, Fudge was also shocked. This is different from what they said at the beginning. What they discussed was that Yaxley was looking for a reason to bring up this matter. Then Fudge spoke and put an end to the war. Why did this really start a fight? Fudge said, "Erwin, don't be impulsive, think again." Erwin smiled and said, "Don't think about it, Minister Fudge. I remember that there seems to be a saying about pure blood family wars. That is, you can use all available means. As long as you don't hurt innocent people, then it is allowed, right?" Fudge nodded. "Yes, but the Cavendi family..." Fudge hasn't finished speaking yet. Suddenly an owl flew in through the window, came directly to Yaxley's head and dropped a letter. Yaxley frowned. "Pick up the letter." A feeling of uneasiness suddenly arose in my heart. The moment he opened the letter, Yaxley's pupils suddenly shrank. He suddenly looked up at Erwin. "How dare you?" However, the next moment, a mouthful of blood spurted out of Yaxley's throat. The whole person fell backward. The letter fell to the ground. An oar steadied Yaxley. Fudge picked up the letter curiously, and then his expression changed drastically. Chapter 221. Turning to look at Erwin, the look of looking down on Erwin in his eyes had disappeared, replaced by panic and fear. It was obvious that he was frightened. Snape and Professor McGonagall looked at Fudge in confusion. I don't know what Fudge saw that made him so panicked. Erwin still had a faint smile on his face, looking very gentle and sunny. However, this smile fell in Fudge's eyes, like a devil's smile. "It's so terrifying," Erwin said calmly. "Minister Fudge, during the pure blood family war, no other people are allowed to get involved. Am I right?" Fudge swallowed. Meeting Erwin's gaze, he felt as if he was seeing a cruel magical animal. It seemed that as long as Fudge said something wrong, he would be devoured the next moment. Fudge nodded quickly. Yes. Erwin said, Chief Yaxley just said that he had launched a pure-blood family war against the Cavendi family last weekend, so everything I do now should be in compliance with the regulations. Bar. Fudge hesitated. Although this is the case, but you... Fudge didn't finish his sentence. The smile on Erwin's face faded away. Minister Fudge, I hope you can be fair. According to the rules of pure-blood family warfare, you can use all means. I don't think I have done anything illegal, and I hope you can fair and just. Fudge was silent for a moment. I know. Erwin nodded with satisfaction. The smile appeared again. Well, Minister Fudge, tomorrow's daily prophet. I hope the Ministry of Magic will not use any means to suppress it. The wizards in the magical world need to know the truth. Are you right? Fudge nodded. Okay, I understand what you mean. Now that things here are over, I'll leave first. After speaking, Fudge said hello to Professor McGonagall and Snape. Let the Aurors take the Yaxley family head away directly. There was no hesitation at all, and his steps were very fast, as if there was some wild beast chasing him behind. Professor McGonagall and Snape looked at Erwin in surprise. Professor McGonagall couldn't help but ask, Erwin, what did you do? Advertisement, Erwin said. No, Professor, just showing some strength. You know, when I was in the Muggle world, I did a lot of things to survive and accumulated some energy. The Yaxley family was too bullying. I have no choice but to resist. Professor McGonagall looked at Erwin and sighed. You can figure it out yourself, but pure-blood family warfare is not that simple. The Yaxley family also has a lot of background, and we can't help you now. But if you fail, don't leave Hogwarts. As long as you are in Hogwarts, you are safe. A pure-blood family war has broken out, and this is no longer something that Professor McGonagall and the others can get involved in. This is an agreement between all pure-blood families, and it was also the condition of pure-blood families when the Ministry of Magic was first established. Pure-blood families have their own rules for doing things, and they are bound by the Ministry of Magic. But similarly, the Ministry of Magic must also respect the heritage of pure-blood families. Snape and Erwin left Professor McGonagall's office together. Erwin followed Snape. Instead of going to class, he went directly to Snape's office. He knew that Snape must have many questions to ask him. Sure enough, I just arrived at Snape's office. Snape couldn't help but ask, Erwin, what are you planning to do? Is your purpose just to provoke a pure-blood family war? Erwin didn't hide anything and nodded directly. Yes, Godfather. My intention from the beginning was not to bring down the Yaxley family with one crime. I know this is impossible. An inheritance, how could a pure-blood family that has been established for many years be overthrown just because of a simple crime of killing a Muggle? I wanted to start a pure-blood family war from the very beginning. Snape frowned. If you had already planned this, even if you started the war yourself, it would still be recognized. Erwin shook his head. Different godfathers. The Cavendi family cannot take the initiative to provoke war. Pure-blood families have been passed down for a long time. For the purity of the blood, they intermarry with each other. So even if there is a relationship between the families, it's not good. But they can still be related. The Cavendi family breaks in. If they want to gain a foothold, they can't let everyone think that the Cavendi family is an invader and a villain. Even if they win in the end, the Yaxley family will also be considered by others as the Cavendi family as a threatening family, and the final result will still be that they will be squeezed out. Snape thought for a moment and had to admit that what Erwin said made sense. Pure-blood families are intricately connected, but they maintain a balance. They are above the magical world and control power and wealth. Although there are frictions between each other, if an outsider breaks in at this time and uses other pure-blood families as a stepping stone to get a share of the pie, it will naturally cause panic among others. Snape said, The news that Chief Yaxley saw just now is that you took action against his family? Erwin nodded. Well, I asked Cavendi's people to attack Yaxley's manor with Muggle weapons. Snape said, Looking at the reaction of the Yaxley family, you should make quite a splash this time. Erwin spread his hands. Maybe, Godfather. You have seen the power of Muggle weapons. The people under my command have more powerful things in their hands, and they are in huge quantities. Snape nodded. But if you do this, won't it still make other families guard against you? After all, if you can attack Yaxley once, you can attack them. Erwin said, Godfather, the truth is actually very simple. People from the Yaxley family killed my men. Tomorrow the Daily Prophet will report the news, including everything that happened in Hogwarts, including Yaxley launched a pure-blood family war against the Cavendi family. According to reports, The Cavendi family had to launch this attack in order to avenge their own people. In the end, they won a life-and-death victory. All pureblood families will know that the Windy family has sharp fangs, but these fangs are not weapons that can be used to attack at any time. This time, it was because the Cavendi family was forced to have no choice but to carry out this attack. However, the Cavendi family is peace-loving and just wants to survive. They have no intention of becoming enemies with anyone. When the time comes, the Erwin family, the Malfoy family, and the Parkinson family will also come out to condemn the Yaxley family. Chapter 222. After that, everyone will know that the Cavendi family is just and we have an edge, but we hide it. The premise is that you don't provoke Cavendi. Erwin had no intention of hiding anything and told Snape all his plans. Snape is trustworthy. Erwin didn't want to hide it from him, so Erwin told Snape all his plans. Snape said, "So, the dead muggle." Erwin took over the words. "He is going to die. Even if the Yaxley clan leader does not kill him, he will commit suicide in the Yaxley family. His death will give him an opportunity for the D family to passively counterattack on the basis of righteousness." Snape was silent. Although I guessed Erwin's plan, I also listened to Erwin's plan. But he was still surprised by Erwin's overall plan. No, it can't be said to be surprise, but horror. All of Erwin's layouts are too complete. Yaxley followed Erwin's rhythm step by step, finally giving Erwin a reasonable excuse to start a war. After a while, Snape asked, "Are you so sure that the plan will go according to your ideas?" Erwin shook his head. "No, I'm not sure, but before my plan started, I envisioned more than 10 possible situations, and I had all the countermeasures in mind. The final result will be Asia." Yaxley took the initiative to start a pure-blood family war. "This is the path I planned for Yaxley, and he can only follow this path. There is no second possibility, and there will be no forks in the road." Snape said, "Are you sure? Destroy the Yaxley family?" Erwin thought for a moment. "There is some certainty, but there are many things to consider, such as the action of the person behind Yaxley. Godfather, as you know, Yaxley has defected to Solent, and the Solent family may not let it go. I destroy Yaxley. This is a variable. I am sure to destroy Yaxley's power that is now on the surface, but if the Solent family takes action, I don't know what the outcome will be, because I am not sure about the outcome. The Solent family knows nothing." Snape nodded. "You don't have to worry about this. When the pureblood family war is launched, even Solent cannot participate, because this is a common agreement of all pureblood families in the world. The pureblood family war can only be fought by both parties. No one can participate, so the Solent family cannot help. If they do, other pureblood families will also take action." Erwin understood. "I see. It seems that I have made pureblood family warfare simple. In this case, the Yaxley family will definitely be wiped out." Snape wondered, "Why do you have such strong self-confidence? The Yaxley family is not as simple as you think. To be honest, I don't think Muggle weapons will cause any harm to wizards. I have seen those things, but an iron armor spell can prevent them. Even if it is more powerful, it can only injure the wizard, but cannot destroy the wizard. The wizard can apparate, even if he does not win the battle head-on. It can also be used as a sneak attack." Erwin smiled and said, "Godfather, I think it's almost time. Why don't I take you to Diagon Alley to watch a show?" Snape looked at Erwin confused. Erwin didn't explain, but stretched out his arm. Snape grabbed Erwin's arm. The next moment, a vortex swallowed the two of them. The two appeared again and had arrived at Cavendi's magic materials shop in Diagon Alley. In the material store, Old Tom and Rivers were both there. Seeing Erwin appear, their eyes lit up. Then, the two saw Snape next to Erwin. Rivers' pupils contracted slightly for a moment. Advertisement. Erwin frowned and said nothing. Looking at Old Tom, "Tom, what are the casualties?" Old Tom said, "Those in the Yaxley family have no sense of crisis and may be relying too much on Muggle expulsion spells. Therefore, I asked those who were planted with purple lotus marks by their masters to prepare for explosions, and they did not notice it. Our two people were injured. They were injured because they ran too slowly after the blast. There were no other casualties. The Yaxley family estate has been engulfed in flames. As for their casualties, I don't know." Erwin nodded. "That's enough. Are the Diagon Alley projects ready? I'll take my godfather to watch the fireworks." After hearing this, Old Tom glanced at Snape in surprise. "Hello." Snape nodded slightly. Nothing more was said. Instead, he focused his attention on Rivers, with some doubts in his eyes. Old Tom quietly moved a step to the side. Keep rivers behind you. Erwin noticed this little gesture, but said nothing. Old Tom said, everything is ready. Master, you can rest assured that it will be a satisfactory fireworks show. Erwin nodded. Then let's go. Let's watch the fireworks. Godfather, let's go. Snape nodded and followed Old Tom. The store door opens. There were 2 rows of strong men in black suits standing at the door. These people are the backbone of the Cavendi family. After seeing Erwin, after these people were stunned for a short time, they all shouted excitedly, Master! Erwin nodded. Erwin looked around. There are still many wizards in Diagon Alley. At this time, they all looked at Erwin and the others in surprise. After all, they have never seen this kind of scene before. And they can also see it, except Erwin and Snape. Everyone else is Muggle, and they all knew the identities of Erwin and Snape. After all, neither of them are unknown people. Erwin said, the Yaxley family launched a pureblood family war against us. I don't understand what a pureblood family war is. I only know that John died in their hands. All the Cavendi family members looked fierce. Erwin continued, I just wanted to open a shop in Diagon Alley to make some money, but they couldn't tolerate me. The Yaxley family felt that I had touched their cake. They forced me and asked me to the price is adjusted to the same price as them, but I don't want to. I know the cost of these things. I also know that many wizards actually live in poverty. They need these materials, maybe some simple materials. After they buy them, making a potion can give them a full meal. I don't want to make such money, so I refused them. So Yaxley started a pureblood family war against us. Chapter 223. I am just a child, a new student at Hogwarts. I have no choice but to let my brother, John, who has watched me grow up, saved my life, and is one of the most important core members of the Cavendi family, go. Negotiate with the Yaxley family. I hope they can let me live. I hope they let us go. I hope the wizards in the magic world can continue to use cheap magic materials. I hope they no longer have to fight for food. After a full meal, I broke my wand and left the magical world. Am I really wrong? The wizards who were watching around had their eyes red after hearing these words. They are all ordinary people, and they know that the life of a wizard is not easy. Unlike the Muggle world, which is vast and vast, the wizarding world only has such a small scope. Their employment opportunities are limited, and they have seen too many human relationships. They saw too many wizards who had to break their wands because they couldn't afford to eat. Therefore, Erwin's words resonated with too many people. Someone shouted at this time, Erwin, you are right. It is those damn pureblood families who are wrong. This sound was like a fuse. Set all wizards on fire. They shouted like crazy. Damn the pureblood family, down with them. Yes, that's it, Erwin. We support you and the Cavendi family. Erwin listened to the shouts of the wizards around him. He raised his hand and pressed it. There was silence. Snape looked at Erwin with burning eyes. Erwin really gave him too many surprises. Erwin continued, I have heard a saying, where there is oppression, there is resistance. Who is oppressing us poor wizards? Is it the Ministry of Magic? Is it the Muggles? No, in my opinion, all our oppression comes from pureblood families like Yaxley. They oppress us. They sell us items that originally cost 1 gold galleon for 10 gold galleons, and they will never make a lot of money. Do you know how long these extra 9 gold galleons can make a poor wizard live? They are aloof. They are greedy for wealth. They are insensitive. They don't care about the life and death of other people. All they care about is whether there are more gold galleons in their treasury. Tell me if their wealth has increased. Are you willing to live such a life? Being exploited and squeezed by others. A group of wizards shouted, I don't want to. I don't want to. The sound echoed throughout Diagon Alley. Yaxley family store, the door is closed at this time. There were several members of the Yaxley family inside. His face was extremely ugly. Have you informed the family? These people want to rebel. They need manpower to support them. I have already notified you. 5 owls have flown out, but I have received no response. Damn Cavendi. Erwin continued. Now, the Yaxley family has launched a pureblood family war against the Cavendi family. We Cavendi are a Muggle family. Many people know this, but we are not afraid. We want a resistance. We have to fight. We are fighting for justice, and we are fighting for the many oppressed wizards. We are fighting for the dead John. This battle is a battle of revenge and a battle of justice. Even if we fight hard today, the last drop of blood of the Cavendi family, even if the Cavendi family is destroyed, I, Erwin Cavendi, have no regrets. I want to tell them with our blood that the era of oppressors has passed. The current era belongs to us, to every wizard, and he belongs to justice. Today I stand here, with all the members of the Cavendi family members fight side by side. Even if the Cavendi family disappears, at least we have used our lives to create an immortal chapter for the oppressed. I am here to give an order as the head of the Cavendi family. In this battle, many of us may die in this battle. If I die, please wrap my body with the purple lotus flag. I don't need it. My name will last forever. I just need to let everyone know that I, Erwin Cavendi, once resisted oppression. All the wizards looked at Erwin with red eyes. Advertisement. At this time, a wandering wizard stood up. Mr. Cavendi, I want to join the Cavendi family. Is that okay? These words seemed to open a door to a new world for other wandering wizards. They cannot participate in pureblood family wars, but they can join the Cavendi family. Then it would make sense for them to intervene. More than a dozen wizards came out one after another. He said the same thing as the wizard. Erwin shook his head. No, my friend. The Cavendi family is facing a crisis. I can't let you join. In normal times, the Cavendi family welcomes you, but not now. I can't let you follow me. Face danger together. Your having this heart is the greatest encouragement to the Cavendi family. After Erwin finished speaking, the wandering wizard who spoke first said, No, sir, I insist. I am willing to join the Cavendi family and advance and retreat with the Cavendi family. It's just a fight to the death. I'm never afraid. As he spoke, the wandering wizard knelt on the ground. Lower your head. There was a strong intention of not getting up if Erwin disagreed. At this time, some wizards came out. Everyone knelt on the ground. We are willing to join the Cavendi family and ask Mr. Cavendi to accept us. We are all willing to advance and retreat together with the Cavendi family. Fight to the end. Erwin looked troubled. After scanning around, there were probably about 20 wandering wizards. Look at the hesitation on Erwin's face. Old Tom said, Master, accept them. They also want to resist oppression. Erwin sighed. That's all. Since you are all willing to join, then I will accept you as a member of the Cavendi family in the name of the Cavendi clan. From now on, we will share weal and woe. All the wandering wizards smiled happily and stood up. Erwin looked at Old Tom and raised the corners of his mouth. Old Tom also smiled and stepped back obediently. At this moment, whirlpools appeared. As a figure appeared, it was a member of the Selwyn family. The patriarch of the old Selwyn family knelt in front of Erwin. Master, the Selwyn family is late. Erwin asked in confusion. Why are you here? In a pure-blood family war, you can't take action even though you're here. Old Selwyn said, No, the Selwyn family has become a vassal of the Cavendi family and can take action. The Selwyn family will advance and retreat together with the Cavendi family. This was the first time Erwin knew about this rule. Looking behind Old Selwyn, there were about 30 people. They are all the core strength of the Selwyn family. Suddenly, Erwin had a different idea. With more than 50 wizards, it seems that he can make his plan of genocide, which originally lasted for a month, faster. Chapter 224. This is good news for Erwin. At least it doesn't have to take so long. After all, Erwin himself plans to eat away at the Yaxley family bit by bit. Now that there are so many wizards available, Erwin can deal with him directly. Just when Erwin was about to take someone to Yaxley's shop, several more vortexes appeared. The next moment, the vortex dispersed. Lucius Malfoy, Narcissa Malfoy, and Pansy's father, the contemporary head of the Parkinson family, appeared at the same time. There was a mighty team behind him. At a glance, there were 30 or 40 wizards. Lucius said, Erwin, you made such a big move and didn't even call me. The last time you wrote to me, I thought you wouldn't see me anymore. Erwin said, This is a pure-blood family war. Mr. Lucius, it shouldn't be convenient for you to take action. Lucius smiled and said, Just now, the Malfoy family and the Parkinson family jointly launched a pure-blood family war against the Yaxley family. Erwin exclaimed, Is this still possible? Lucius said, Theoretically it's possible, but no one has ever done it. Erwin hesitated. I don't know if I should trust Lucius. After all, the reputation of our Mr. Lucius is really not very good. At this time, Snape on the side said, Erwin, the Malfoy family can be trusted. Your father's relationship with Lucius is beyond your imagination. Erwin nodded after hearing this. He didn't have to trust Lucius, but he had to trust Snape. Erwin said, In that case, thank you, Mr. Lucius. Lucius said, You can call me Uncle. Erwin hesitated. Okay, Uncle Lucius. Lucius nodded with satisfaction. This is your Aunt Narcissa. She is your mother's best friend. Although they are not biological sisters, They are closer than biological sisters. Narcissa looked at Erwin with tears in her eyes. My child, you are suffering. It's my fault. If I had known that you would enter the magical world, I shouldn't have listened to your mother and not looked for you. You have suffered so much. It's not easy for you to get to where you are today. Erwin smiled. No, Aunt Narcissa, I'm doing pretty well. Erwin still didn't say a word, if you ignore the fact that he escaped death several times. It went really well for him. Erwin turned his attention to Pansy's father. Pansy's father said, Don't look at me. Pansy is loyal to you in public. I only have this one daughter, and I have no choice. However, the Parkinson family will not surrender to anyone. At least you are not qualified now. Erwin smiled. Thank you very much, Chief Parkinson. In this case, let's set off. At this time, those members of the Yaxley family were scared to death. Diagon Alley itself is not big. This mighty appearance of nearly 100 wizards. No one was blind and couldn't see it. Every Ollivander's wand store I could see was closed. What should we do? Leave, or you will die. What nonsense are you talking about? If we leave now, our family will die if we go back. Then what should we do? Just wait here and let those wizards kill us? During the Pure Blood Family War, the Ministry of Magic will not protect us, as long as they do not attack others. We must hold on, and the family's support will definitely come. Hold on. As long as we drag the family members here, we still have a glimmer of hope. Be defensive. Several other people nodded helplessly. Now they had no good solution. Everyone raised their wands and pointed them above their heads. Ultimate protection. All protection. Resist the enemy. As everyone recited the spell together, a layer of aqua-blue barrier slowly appeared. Wrap the entire interior of the store. After doing all this, several people wiped the sweat from their foreheads. Advertisement, it should be able to defend it. Unless the magic power exceeds ours by too much and a powerful attack magic is used, it cannot be opened. Even if multiple people attack, it can last for a while, which is enough to support the family. That's fine. My magic power has been drained. I can't even emit a fluorescent flash now. At the same time, outside the store, Erwin has already brought people over. Lucius and the others took out their wands and started attacking, just waiting for Erwin to speak. Erwin raised his hand to stop everyone. Let's set off some fireworks first. Erwin has not forgotten his original intention. He needs to let everyone see the methods of the Cavendi family. This battle is a battle to establish prestige. Everyone looked at Erwin in confusion. I don't know what Erwin means. Erwin saw a lead buried in the ground on the side of the shop. Not quite covert, but those wizards didn't know what it was. Erwin flicked the wand in his hand. A small flame flew out and landed on the lead wire. The next second, the fuse began to burn rapidly. In Yaxley's shop, those Yaxley people looked through the window and saw Erwin and others stopping outside. He wondered, what are they doing? Why are they not attacking? I don't know. Who knows what tricks they are playing? However, just as this person finished speaking, just heard a loud noise. The next moment, the flames engulfed the store. The whole Diagon Alley seemed to shake. The wizards looked in horror at the shop in front of them that was engulfed in flames. What is that? What a terrifying power. This power is no less powerful than a tyrannical wizard releasing calendar fire. This horrific explosion. What on earth is this? It looks like a muggle weapon. I've seen it before. Have muggles mastered something so terrifying? Lucius's pupils also shrank slightly. He made a decision in his mind that he would learn more about muggle things after returning. Erwin said nothing. Where is this? Learn about flying fireworks and they will blow up your little son. Dongfeng Express offers free shipping nationwide, dear. Erwin's wand flicked. The flames were controlled by Erwin and did not extend toward the outside. Soon, the entire store was burned to ashes. As the smoke slowly dissipated, an aqua blue cover appeared in front of everyone. Are you going to protect them all? Erwin murmured. Erwin is very familiar with this stuff. In fact, this curse is not a secret. It will be taught at Hogwarts. Even a graduate can play with one. It's just that the strength of the release is not necessarily the same. If you want to cover all of Hogwarts like in the original work, you need a lot of magic support. One person can't do it. Dumbledore should be able to do it, but it's a pity that he was dead at that time, and Erwin didn't know about it. Whether he can do it or not, there should be no way to know whether he can do it or not in his lifetime. As long as Old Ding is alive, no one will dare to attack. Hogwarts. Chapter 225. Everyone looked at Erwin, waiting for Erwin's next move. Erwin came here to show off his muscles today. Therefore, if you can do without these wizards, don't use these wizards. As for all this protection, Erwin said that this seemed to be his opportunity to take action with all his strength. Erwin walked out of the crowd, looking through the blue barrier at the Yaxley family members inside. Then he slowly raised his wand. This action stunned everyone present, including those Yaxley tribesmen inside. What does he want to do? Does he want to break all the protections by himself? It's just a joke. Although he is very strong, it is impossible to break all the protections by himself. I was lost for a moment and forgot my own strength. Lucius and others also frowned. Lucius came behind Erwin and whispered, although those few inside are pretty good, all the protections they release cannot be opened by just one person. Let everyone take action together, and it will soon be over. It can be broken. Erwin smiled. Really? I don't believe it. The next second, Erwin took action directly. A ray of purple light blasted directly from Erwin's wand. Blast towards the blue light mask in front of you. It's the death curse. It's just that Erwin's death curse was purple, and Erwin cast the spell silently. So many people didn't recognize that Erwin was using the death curse. I have to say that weird colors are sometimes another kind of disguise. As the purple light waves hit the blue light mask, a dull sound came out. The blue mask lights up with blue light, offsetting the purple light. Everyone's eyes fell on the place where the spell was handed over. Erwin said coldly, "The turtle shell is really hard." The Yaxley man inside laughed. "Give up. Don't overestimate your capabilities. It's impossible for you to break the protection of all the people on your own. When people from our family come, you will all die." Erwin said coldly, "Really? Break it for me." The next moment, the magic power surged out of Erwin's body. The wand in his hand began to tremble slightly. This is a slight tremor caused by the influx of large amounts of magic power. The purple light beam instantly thickened. It hit the blue barrier. The Yaxleys were shocked. He looked worriedly at the light shield above his head. The mask remained motionless. These people are even more proud. The look he looked at Erwin was full of teasing. Just when I was about to get high. The next second, a crisp click sounded. Everyone present heard it. Everyone looked at the location of the magic attack in disbelief. At this time, there was already a slight crack there, and it's still extending. Click, click. After a few crisp sounds, the next second, the entire blue mask shattered. Erwin felt the magic power in his body, and his own magic power was almost drained. Advertisement: if it weren't for the various black magic bonuses that amplify the power of the spell, this eggshell would be really difficult to break. The moment the mask shattered, Erwin raised his wand. Kill them all. The next moment, all the wizards, including the Cavendi family, swarmed forward. A series of magic spells were launched instantly. The Cavendi family ran so slowly that they didn't even have a chance to intervene. When they came closer, those people would die no more. When Erwin saw this scene, he also sighed in his heart. Sure enough, although Muggles have weapons, their individual combat effectiveness is really not as good as that of wizards. We still have to find a way to let people in these families have magic power. Otherwise, when there is another crisis, they will not be able to take action. It seems that the trip to Numengard is really imminent. I just don't know if Grindelwald really has the secret to turn Muggles into wizards. Erwin stepped on the rubble and came to the bodies of those people. He glanced down. He snorted coldly. After finishing the dessert, it was time for the main course. Meanwhile, in the Yaxley family, the patriarch of the Yaxley family wakes up. Fudge walked over from the side. "You're awake." The patriarch of the Yaxley family nodded. "Why are we back?" Fudge said, "You are so angry. I brought you back, and it's time for me to leave. You should think about what to do next. The Cavendi family has accepted your pure-blood family war." Chief Yaxley instantly recalled what happened before he fell into coma. Shouted, "Here comes someone." A member of the Yaxley family walked in. "Master, you're awake?" Yaxley said, "What are the family casualties?" The subordinate said, "The attack happened too suddenly. They used Muggle weapons. Most of the manor was destroyed. The eldest and second young masters of the family were killed in the attack. The third young master was injured. More than 30% of the other family members were killed or injured." After hearing this, Yaxley almost spit out another mouthful of blood. "No, my son. Damn it. Damn the bastards. Damn Cavendi. I want them dead. Let everyone prepare. I want a bloodbath, Cavendi." Fudge on the side couldn't help but take a breath when he heard the level of casualties. Muggle weapons are so terrifying. Just then, an owl flew in. "Deliver a letter to Fudge." Fudge opened it and looked at it. His expression changed greatly. Yaxley on the side asked, "What happened?" Fudge said, Just now, the Malfoy family and the Parkinson family jointly launched a pureblood family war against the Yaxley family, and Yaxley's shop in Diagon Alley has been attacked. Erwin Cavendi personally took action to break all the protections released by the wizards in your family, and they are all dead. There are now nearly 100 wizards heading towards Yaxley Manor. Chief Yaxley was instantly shocked. Damn it! How dare they? They want to destroy my Yaxley family. Fudge looked at the furious Chief Yaxley. He rolled his eyes and said, "It's time for me to go. Such a big thing has happened, and I need to announce the news as soon as possible, to avoid causing panic in the wizarding world." After saying that, Fudge turned around and left without any hesitation. Chief Yaxley looked at Fudge's back. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Fudge, that damned piece of shit, just a stickler for the wind. Now seeing that the Yaxley family is in crisis, they are about to run away. When the Yaxley family gets through this crisis, they will definitely come to him to settle matters. The men on the side asked, "Master, what should we do? We simply can't stop so many people now." Yaxley said, "Damn Cavendi, damn Malfoy and Parkinson. They think they can destroy me, Yaxley. They are too naive, telling those who can still fight now to activate defense. I'm going to make some other preparations."
Thanks for watching. You can find the next videos in the playlist linked in the info card, directly on my channel, or right here on the screen. And as always, if you have any feedback, feel free to share it in the comments too.